Spring of 2036, in the rainforests of southern Longwa. I was sprinting through a torrential downpour, drenched to the bone. Not long ago, I had taken a nasty fall, passed out for who knows how long, only to wake up being chased by relentless rain. Desperate, I kept pushing deeper into the forest to find some semblance of shelter. After a failed business venture left me drowning in debt, I turned to wilderness vlogging as a last-ditch attempt to make a living through videos and ad revenue. Survival had always been a passion of mine, but this time, I seemed cursed from the get-go. The harder I ran, the more frustrated I became. Then, suddenly, after about 10 minutes of running, the rain stopped. The ground dried in an instant, unnaturally so. Birds were chirping everywhere. Even the provoking calls of wild pheasants echoed around me. I glanced back only to see the path behind me was as dry and pristine as if it had never rained. A sight so eerie it sent shivers down my spine. I ignored it for now. My priority was starting a fire and setting up camp. I sat down to rummage through my backpack. I didn't notice that, not far away, crouching in the bushes, was a woman. Her body wrapped in grass and animal hides. With a strikingly exaggerated physique, she gripped a heavy wooden club tightly, her gaze fixated on me with an intensity that burned through the air. In a low, disjointed tone, she muttered to herself, "Hit. Drag back, sleep." The only warning I had was the crunch of dry leaves under a heavy step. I barely began to turn before. Wham! The wooden club came crashing down. My world spun. Blinding flashes and glowing words briefly blazed before my vision went dark. Info panel activated. When I came to, I was lying in a pitch-black cave. Pale light streamed faintly in from the entrance, and a still smoldering fire whispered beside me. Relief swept through me. I thought someone had saved me. At least, I hadn't been a midnight snack for some wild beast. As I attempted to get up, voices drifted in from the cave's entrance. There were footsteps and what seemed like an argument in a strange accent, though I could understand every word. No men, not allowed in the tribe. Tribe, my heart sank. I immediately pretended to be asleep, barely cracking an eye open to peek. Aya, the woman named Ame retorted stubbornly, I want a man. Without men, the tribe dies. Aya fell silent. These women, if you could even call them that, were outcasts from some larger tribe. The reason? Ridiculous yet brutal. They were deemed too large, ate too much, and were considered a threat. The chiefs had decided they were surplus mouths vying for food and cast them away. As more women entered the cave, my heart nearly stopped. They didn't look like modern humans at all, with sun-kissed skin and animal hides covering only the most necessary parts. Their massive, towering physiques were terrifying. Even the smallest stood over 2 meters tall with powerful, long legs that projected pure dominance. It felt like being walled in by imposing giants. Aya pointed at me, casually rummaging through my backpack as if it were a toy. Her frown deepened the longer she examined its contents. His tribe must be strong. He might bring danger. Ame, however, hadn't taken her eyes off me, her gaze full of determination and longing. She murmured, Our mother said without men, it's hard for women to survive. Apparently, she had impulsively knocked me out and brought me here after seeing me while foraging. Though her initial plan to immediately sleep with me was thwarted when Aya intervened. Finally, Aya declared coldly, setting a firm ultimatum. He only stays if he chooses to join our tribe. Her words hung in the air like a blade poised over everyone's heads. Ame nodded and reached over, vigorously shaking me awake. Get up, man. Slowly, I opened my eyes, looking around cautiously. The cave was enormous and crowded. The oppressive aura of their size and sheer physical dominance pressed down on me inescapably. At 1.8 meters tall, I was no small man. Yet surrounded like this, I felt cornered at every turn. My only comfort was that they hadn't decided to eat me, yet. Aya's sharp gaze pierced through me as she asked, Man, do you want to stay and join our tribe? Her words dropped like a pin in the room. Every single pair of eyes locked onto me in anticipation. For them, a man was everything: life, protection, prey, and security. Suppressing the panic rising in my chest, I asked cautiously, Where is this place? Aya responded curtly, Great tribe. Home. Ame squatted beside me, her gaze unwavering. as if she couldn't get enough of looking at me. Aya added coldly, "If you don't want to stay, then leave. If you leave and get eaten, it's not our problem." Everything clicked in my mind as I rubbed the baseball-sized lump on the back of my head. Ame reached over apologetically, rubbing the bump as well. "I hit you." Aya pushed forward. "Decide now. Stay, and I'd be part of their tribe. But if I left, I'd be on my own, easy prey for predators." As I hesitated, Ame suddenly presented me with a massive green leaf holding what they called food. My throat tightened. The food was a mess of gutted insects and eggs, streaked with blood. Ame moved the leaf closer with wide eyes. "Eat. Stay." Aya remained silent, awaiting my decision. I took a deep breath. These towering women, with their primal strength and minimal resources, weren't giving me much of a choice. "I'll join your tribe," I said firmly. The cave erupted in laughter and cheers. The group of colossal women jumped and celebrated, nearly smothering me with their excitement. At 1.8 meters, I felt like a hapless child among them, and the intensity of their towering joy only made the situation more nerve-wracking. Ame thrust the insect egg closer. "Eat. I give to you." Forcing a smile, I reluctantly took one of the white, glistening eggs and swallowed it in one gulp. It tasted as foul as I had feared, but I managed to keep my expression neutral. Finally, Aya's stoic face cracked into a faint smile. A man joining their tribe was a monumental gain. This meant strength, survival, status. I took the chance to ask, "Can I go outside? It's too dark in here." Aya nodded without objection. Hoisting my backpack onto my shoulders, I stepped out of the cavern. The outside world was dense with trees and underbrush, the humidity thick in the air. Testing the wind direction and dampness, my stomach nodded as I confirmed my suspicion. Rainforest. The tribal grounds were bare, some grass cleared here and there, but nothing else. No fences, no tents, no pottery. Anything remotely resembling sophisticated tools or structures was entirely absent. The most advanced item I had spotted was a single sharp stone knife. It hit me like a stone wall. This was the Stone Age. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me, blocking out the faint sunlight beyond the trees. Ame was inches away, her intense gaze locking onto mine as she lowered her head slightly to speak, her voice hushed but heated. "You smell good." I glanced upward into her piercing eyes, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ame towered at a staggering 2.2 meters, her animal hide garments failing to disguise the overwhelming presence she carried. Her size alone exuded raw authority. Once again, my eyes inadvertently drifted toward the strongest woman in the group, standing at the furthest edge of the clearing. Yeah, Aya stood the tallest, her face more mature, her eyes serious and cold, as if a single word from her could decide my fate. These women could easily be over 8 feet tall, their curvaceous figures exaggerated to the point that every step they took caused a hefty sway. My head was spinning. How could a primitive tribe, supposedly suffering from food scarcity, have women who were this tall and robust, with glowing, healthy skin and seemingly perfect proportions? The contradiction was overwhelming. But as strange as it was, only one thought dominated my mind at that moment. Hunger. My stomach let out an audible growl. Immediately, the women around me turned their heads in unison, their piercing stares almost making me flinch. Aya, her tone commanding as ever, spoke. "Give the man food." Without hesitation, more than 20 women shuffled into the cave, rummaging around and bringing out whatever they could find. The food, however, ranged from wild fruits and roots to insects, dead ones at that. My scalp tingled as I suppressed the urge to gag, forcing myself to put on a brave face. "I'm not hungry," I lied through clenched teeth. Ame, another member of the tribe, blushed but stared at me with a bold expression, offering. "Then me with you." I immediately refused. "I'm not tired either." Aya frowned, clearly displeased, and added, "Then at night sleep?" Casually, I gave a nonchalant MHM, and that finally elicited smiles from both Aya and Ame. But their smiles left an unsettling feeling in the pit of my stomach. Trying to piece together what little information I could, I spent the ensuing moments exchanging broken words with Aya. Bit by bit, I began to understand my current predicament. This place was called the Great Tribe. Aya was the queen, while Ame was one of the senior members. Everyone followed their lead. These women were all outcasts, banished from other tribes, and had banded together to survive. However, food reserves had dwindled now that the rainy season had just ended, depleting nearly all edible resources nearby. Without new food sources, their choices were grim: migrate or starve. But migration was almost equivalent to a death sentence. The rainy season could return at any moment, and finding shelter from the relentless cold rains would prove nearly impossible. No fire, no food. Eventually, they'd succumb to starvation or hypothermia. In fact, during their last move, 2 of their members had already perished. Aya's gaze met mine, her expression severe, voice unyielding like the strike of a gavel. "Man, you hunt." My teeth clenched as I replied, I'll try." By now, I had pieced together the harsh reality. Though intimidating in size and stature, these women were essentially gatherers with no hunting skills. They were physically strong but awkward carriers who panicked in the face of danger. It was likely why they had been cast out in the first place. And now, they'd pinned all their hopes for survival on me. Troubled by the monumental task ahead of me, I suddenly remembered something. A fleeting memory that ignited like a spark. Before I had been knocked unconscious by Ame, I caught a glimpse of something like a panel. My pulse quickened. Might as well give it a shot. Closing my eyes, I muttered silently in my mind. Lo and behold, a glowing interface appeared before me. Current location intelligence for today's collection, asterisk. 1 km east in the swamp, asterisk, a 220-pound Yangtze alligator, deceased. 400 m west in the grasslands, asterisk, a flock of plump wild chickens foraging, will remain for 1 hour. 1 km north at the river, asterisk, 3 panthers currently clashing with a massive tiger. Inside this cave, asterisk, toxic insects in abundance, could be used as bait. Sleep arrangements? Whatever. It's all in the same cave anyway. Who cares where or with whom? I set those thoughts aside and focused on the information in front of me, deliberating on a target. The swamp to the east wasn't too far, but I was unfamiliar with the terrain, too risky. As for the north, where a fierce battle between predators was unfolding, absolutely not. That area sounded like a death trap, with high-level predators likely lurking everywhere. The small grassland patch to the west seemed the safest bet. A flock of plump chickens, close and accessible, was by far the most practical option. But the catch? 1 chicken wouldn't go far with 23 towering women eagerly watching me for results. I'd need to nab at least 10, ideally closer to 20, just to satisfy their appetites. If I failed to deliver, I'd lose any semblance of trust or authority with them. So, I dug into my backpack in front of everyone to assess my tools: a fishing net, a few shoelaces, and a sturdy utility knife, all originally prepared for a wilderness survival show I'd been filming. "I need bait," I said firmly. Ame tilted her head, confused. "Babies," she parroted the unfamiliar word, completely misunderstanding me. Aya frowned in confusion as well, and the other women only looked more puzzled. They didn't even have a concept of bait. Realizing that, I grabbed a handful of squirming insects and larvae from a nearby leaf platter they had used as food and held it up as an example. Pointing back toward the cave, I gestured for more quantities. "Eat," Ame offered enthusiastically. "No, no," I sighed, growing frustrated. I need a lot of these." "Eat," came her reply again, with more insistence. Running out of patience, I turned to Aya, pleading for assistance. Aya hesitated, thinking hard, before I outright mimed the act of eating myself, hoping she'd catch on. Finally, Aya cracked a smile and nodded, yelling, "Eat." "Yes, yes, I need. Just hurry and grab some." I motioned toward the cave with urgency. This time, Aya gave the order to her tribe. "Eat. Man wants a lot." Instantly, over 20 women rushed into the cave to hunt for more bugs. Meanwhile, I began cutting shoelaces into appropriate lengths, preparing makeshift snares and traps. Within 10 minutes, they returned, hands cupped and overflowing with an absurd amount of crushed bugs. Hundreds, easily. As I reached out to collect the spoils, Aya and Ame both intercepted me, clutching their stomachs and shaking their heads in urgent protest, their faces grim. My heart sank as realization dawned on me. A chunk of those bugs were likely toxic, definitely not safe for consumption. I quickly separated the obviously dangerous pile and shoved it into my pocket for later use. Then, using my knife, I marked the ground, drawing diagrams to convey my plan. Pointing to the remaining bugs, I clarified with emphasis. Bait. Hunt, not eat. Finally, their eyes lit up with comprehension. They came for the meat, not to eat bugs themselves. But they were still skeptical. Could a handful of worms really be traded for meat? Without explaining further, I hoisted my supplies and headed into the dense forest. The group instinctively began to follow, but I quickly shook my head. Don't follow me. I'll go alone. Their height and noise would only scare the prey away. Aya nodded, holding the others back, but Ame hesitated, nervous. Man, when will you come back? She feared I'd leave and never return. With a smile, I turned and said, in a bit. As I plunged into the thick jungle, heart steeled, I thought about the plump wild chickens 400 meters west. They'd better be ready for me. Still, I didn't rush straight there. I scanned the ground and shrubbery as I walked, examining every twig and dried leaf along the way to map out tracks and routes ahead of time. Suddenly, I spotted a small path created by some wild animal, with a sturdy tree trunk nearby. Perfect. I immediately set up a snare, baiting it with several worms. In addition, I laid traps at several other promising spots, hacking through the grass to block off paths, leaving only one clear way in. A blatant invitation for something to walk right into my setup. Once the bait was positioned, I reinforced the traps with hopes of snagging some small game. I'd much rather have wild meat than keep chewing on bugs. Glancing at the compass strap on my backpack, I confirmed my direction and moved toward the plump wild chicken feeding ground that was mentioned in the intel. The closer I got, the slower I moved, even holding my breath to not spook anything in the area. Suddenly, a faint chirrup reached my ears, and my instincts flared. The intel had been spot on. Lowering my backpack and folding up my knife, I gripped my net and inched toward the sound. Ahead was a sparse, flat patch of grass where a flock of glossy, plump wild chickens pecked at the ground. Roughly counting, I estimated there were close to 100. With my grip tightening on the net, I figured that as long as I didn't mess up, I could catch at least a dozen with one throw. But the closer I got, the stranger it seemed. A few of the chickens clearly saw my crouching approach but didn't seem fazed. One chicken, just 30 centimeters from me, even clucked and hesitated as I threw down a poisonous bug. It eagerly scooted over to snatch it up. I clenched my teeth. Fine, none of you are getting away. Timing my throw perfectly, I flung the net out with all my might, widening it as much as possible. The net spread out over several square meters, and only then did the chickens panic. Quickly, I pulled and tightened the net, strategically maneuvering it to trap countless flailing, fat chickens. Several stronger ones managed to escape by thrashing through the gaps. When I finally reeled it in, I grabbed a wooden stick and knocked each captured bird unconscious one by one. It wasn't until every fluttering chicken quieted down that I leaned back, drenched in sweat and gasping for air. In my net were over 30 plump chickens. Got it. Each one's 4 or 5 pounds. We're eating like kings tonight, I muttered, shaky with excitement. However, the net was at risk of tearing under the weight, so I couldn't risk dragging them all back myself. I grabbed one particularly hefty chicken and headed straight for the tribe to call for reinforcements. Tonight, it's chicken for dinner. Buck, buck, buck. The tribe's women, who had been pulling weeds and preparing insects, froze at the cry. Each of them swallowed hard. These birds were elusive, always flying away the moment someone got close. They all turned toward Aya expectantly. Aya, the strongest among them and their de facto leader, stood and moved toward the forest edge, listening carefully. Hearing footsteps, she immediately retreated, hiding herself in case it was another tribesman. The others followed her move, their wariness peaked. Then I appeared, scratched up but standing upright, holding a hefty chicken in one hand. Seeing me, Ame couldn't hold back her shout. Buck, buck. Man, huh, caught it. And there's plenty more. My excitement outmatched theirs. This catch was my proof of worth. Aya seemed skeptical, her brow furrowing as I explained and gestured how many more birds were waiting. Only when I emphasized a lot, multiple times did she echo uncertainly, buck, buck. Many. Man hunts many. We go with man. With her declaration, the entire group dove into the dangerous forest with me. When they saw the net, intact and stuffed with over 30 chickens clucking madly, the sight left Aya, Ame, and the others weak in the knees. Ame circled me excitedly, repeatedly chirping, "Man, man," in giddy affirmation, making my ears burn red. I had never dated anyone, let alone been fawned over in a setting like this. My feelings writhed between embarrassment and pride. Suppressing my emotions, I raised my hand and ordered, "Take them. We're heading back." I pointed for them to carefully carry the netted chickens back. The net was too valuable to damage. Overjoyed, the women each grabbed a chicken, dancing and spinning around me like it was a festival. But the scene quickly turned chaotic. Their makeshift clothing, little more than grass skirts and scraps of animal hide, barely covered essential parts. As they bounced around, their garments slipped dangerously, creating a wild, untamed display that was hard to look away from. When my gaze lingered a heartbeat too long, Aya exploded. "No, not allowed. No," she barked, kicking one careless woman to the ground. The mortified woman covered herself in shame, but dared to flash me a shy smile from beneath her disheveled grass skirt. I froze on the spot. Using her toes, Aya flung over a handful of leaves to cover the woman. Only after the woman secured her clothing again did Aya let her get up and hand off her bird. As if doubling down, Ame sidled up even closer to me, swaying teasingly. In an awkward, abrupt halt, blocked my view. She glared at the older girl while sneaking glances at me, her face flushed, as if guarding her territory. That's when I realized it wasn't me inching closer, but AIM intentionally pressing against me. Then it clicked. They weren't unaware of modesty. It's just that move earlier was too deliberate. The older girl wasn't being aggressive. She was showing interest in me. But AIM's fierce protectiveness, coupled with that earlier outburst, confirmed it. These people know shame and rules. Otherwise, Aya wouldn't have gotten upset, and she certainly wouldn't have used a leaf to cover someone. As we walked, I pondered how the primitives here didn't align with my preconceived notions. If their skin were lighter, they'd look nearly identical to modern humans. Their proportions, however, were strikingly distinct. I got lost in my thoughts and didn't notice him pressing closer again, causing me to step back awkwardly. Moving forward felt like retreat, and staying put seemed even worse. "AIM," I called out. "Man," AIM responded excitedly. "My name is Su Mo. Walk properly. Let's go home." "Mo. Go home. Go home. Sleep." I fell silent. Aya, walking nearby, also repeated Mo. Soon, a group of older girls joined in, all calling me Mo. Sighing, I reluctantly accepted the new nickname. Back at the tribe, I instructed everyone to keep the wild chickens in the cave for safekeeping. Grabbing a small knife, I went to gather tree branches to make a fence. "We can't eat all the chickens at once. We need to keep them penned. Otherwise, we'll run out. Farming is too hard right now. Raising chickens would be more reliable." As I crouched, tying branches together, I noticed that using my shoelaces as rope was wasteful, and there wasn't enough length anyway. I glanced at Aya, who stood silently nearby. "Aya, rope." Aya shook her head, not understanding. I sighed and held up my shoelace, gesturing. "Rope." I threaded a few branches with the shoelace and gestured at the cave entrance, indicating the length I needed. "Rope. Wood. Fence the entrance. The chickens will lay eggs." Aya tilted her head, staring at the crude fence, then seemed to recall how I had forbidden them from killing the chickens. At last, she appeared to understand. They used tree bark and vines to make string for grass clothing before. Now they recognized this as rope. Aya silently turned away, blushing slightly. Her hands moved in front of her as though searching for something. Inside the cave, AIM looked over and saw Aya's fidgeting. Her face immediately darkened, and she stormed out in a huff. Standing in front of me angrily with her hands on her hips, AIM blocked my view, defensive as ever. But when I glanced down, I noticed just how short her animal skin skirt was, as if she were provoking me on purpose. I stifled a laugh, stood up, and gave her a nod of respect, if only to humor the locals' customs. Aya eventually turned back, face flushed, holding up a long, braided strip of bark. "Mo here." Before I could respond, AIM jumped to conclusions right in front of me. I quickly pressed her hand down and said urgently, "Rope? Rope. I need this, not that." AIM didn't understand a word. All she knew was that I was stopping her, and her expression grew more aggrieved. It wasn't until I took the strip of woven bark from Aya's hand and held it up, emphasizing, "Rope," I need this. That both women finally understood. Oh, I was referring to this thing for crafting. They had never given a name to these tools before. They just used them. Now they understood. This thing was called rope. Aya immediately rounded up a few others. They grabbed stone knives and began harvesting vines and tree bark, expertly weaving ropes at impressive speed. With the bundled ropes I now had, I started constructing a small fence to enclose the wild chickens inside the cave. The cave was spacious and deep enough. Though noisy, it didn't affect our living space. More importantly, these clucking creatures meant meat and eggs, not to be wasted. By afternoon, Aya and the other older girls looked drained, their pale faces revealing their exhaustion. I hurried to seal the last bits of the fence. Luckily, the chickens didn't put up much of a fight and stayed relatively calm. Relieved, I finally stepped back to admire the handiwork. Im sidled up to me, her tone laced with a hint of whining. "Mo, hungry." Aya, standing off to the side, chimed in softly. "Mo, hungry. Eat, cluck cluck." I had already planned for them to eat, but I couldn't let them feast on all the chickens. Without saying a word, I hopped into the enclosure and began grabbing chickens with ease. Their plump, sluggish nature made the task simple. I managed to catch 16 in one go. Handing the last one to Aya, I sternly pointed at the remaining chickens in the enclosure. "Cluck cluck. No eating." Aya nodded and repeated, "No eating." Placing a hand over her own stomach, she swayed slightly, as if promising. The cave was dim, but the way her figure moved was hard to ignore. I was just as hungry, though my mind first went to preserving the feathers. When I pulled Aya along to step outside, she immediately let go, her face burning with embarrassment. She shook her head repeatedly, her flustered demeanor reading as outright refusal. Aim, witnessing this interaction, grew furious. Her blood boiled as she dropped the chicken she was holding and stormed over, snapping defensively. "Mo is my man." "Aya, no." Aya quickly panicked, denying the accusation. "Aim, I didn't take Mo. I didn't." It hit me then. They were seeing me as some sort of partner. I hastened to clarify. Mo, big tribe, family. Not Aya, not Aim. But my explanation only made things worse. "You belong to the big tribe? So no one here?" "No one." I reiterated with as much emphasis as I could. "Sumo. Big tribe. Not Aim. Not Aya. Big tribe's man." Then, without wasting another second, I grabbed Aim's hand and Aya's, leading them both outside together. Both of them turned completely red, their embarrassment evident. In their tribe, when a man holds a woman's hand, it's the same as declaring them partners. And a man here can only have one partner, unless he's the tribe leader. Neither of them resisted. Their hearts began racing. In this primitive and intense narrative, let me present its English rendition with an authentic American vibe. Default status: Momo is the strongest, but neither Ame nor Aya is happy about it. Ame is defiant, while Aya seems hesitant. They exchange a glance, and the tension only heightens. I decide to bring them to the slaughter area to gather chicken feathers. Dozens of chickens' feathers are collected and piled up, then pressed under some tree branches in the shade. Whether it's for clothes or arrows, they'll come in handy. Afterward, I turn to Aya and say, "I'm going hunting. I've got to check the traps. If we snag something big, it'll be a solid return." I don't dare venture too far since the rainforest becomes a maze at nightfall, especially with the threat of sudden rain. It's not worth the risk. Still, Aya shakes her head. "Enough prey." Ame chimes in. "Eat, black sky sleep." I can't help but chuckle at her. "You silly girl, all you think about is napping." Mimicking their tone, I joke, "Hunting, while you stay here clucking in the tribe," before heading straight into the wilderness, ignoring their protests. The big sister's appetites are overwhelming. Just fruit roots and a few chickens won't cut it, especially during the rainy season. And let me tell you, those rains don't mess around. They come without warning. It could pour for days or stop in half an hour. Sometimes it's on again, off again, driving you insane. That's why stockpiling food now is crucial before everything becomes hopeless. I make rounds to all the traps. First one's untouched. Second one, still nothing. Third, fourth, fifth, nothing, up to the eighth. And then I stop dead in my tracks. Boom. There in the eighth trap is a beast, at least a 50-pound lizard staring back at me. I quip, well, Are you my third sister-in-law? The lizard looks at me, flicking its tongue as if it's answering. Wiping sweat off my forehead, I whip out my knife and drive it sharply into the creature's head, clean and swift. Out here in the jungle, it's survival of the fittest. Hesitation doesn't get you anywhere. I work fast, skinning, bleeding it out, gutting. Years of practice make it routine. The entrails? I slice them up, tossing them into the trap as fresh bait. The rest? I haul the lizard meat back to camp. Score. But as I'm walking back, I'm already groaning. Tonight, should I force myself to wash? Living in a cave, any slip-up could mean bad news. A tiger or bear showing up at the door wouldn't end well, especially with a May, who's over 6.5 feet tall and around 400 pounds. No way I could take her on. Back at the main tribe, I carry the lizard meat in, and instantly, the vibe changes. Everyone's eyes lock on me like I've dragged in their salvation. With this haul, they won't need to scrape by on bugs and roots anymore. Meat, real meat, is on the table. Even Aya bites her lip, that mysterious gaze lingering a little too long. Meanwhile, Ame practically runs up and starts shouting my name, Momo, Momo. When I start cutting, their stone knives are useless, so I grab my trusty blade. I chop the meat into chunks about the width of 3 fingers, handing the skewered pieces to Aya to prepare over the fire. But then, I notice something. The chickens they gathered earlier? Still untouched. What were they planning? Just tossing whole birds into the flames? Exasperated, I stop them in their tracks, brushing the ashes off my hands, and insist on cleaning the chickens up properly. Aya and Ame look dumbfounded. Isn't this just how you eat chicken? Their blank stares seem to ask. Patiently, I dismantle the poultry, threading chunks onto sticks for a slow roast over an even flame. You can almost see their eyes light up, like they've just witnessed culinary magic. See, it's not that they didn't know how to cook better, it's that they didn't have the tools. My knife has everyone captivated. That's when I realize making tools isn't just tough, it's borderline impossible right now. With no materials and no knowledge of metalworking, we're stuck in the Stone Age. For now, stabilizing food supplies comes first. Gathering intelligence and advancing basics can wait. Still, I can't shake the unease. Survival here feels so precarious. A single mountain cave is all we've got for shelter. If a predator decides to drop by, we might not walk out alive. I'll have to assess the area tomorrow. No excuses. As the meat starts to sizzle, the chicken skin crackling over the fire, the rich aroma fills the air. Droplets of fat drip into the flames, and even the lizard meat smells heavenly. Night begins to fall, but the big sisters aren't the least bit scared. They're too busy drooling over dinner. But I make them wait. Tending to the fire for even, perfect heat, I finally reach into my bag and pull out the wild card. 500 grams of precious salt. This stuff is life. Without salt, your energy tanks, fatigue sets in, and you just feel drained. Looking at these women, now it all makes sense. Their massive physiques burn through energy faster than most, and it's clear they've been salt-deprived for way too long. Put simply, their productivity's in the gutter because they've been running on empty. And since they can't pull their weight, it's no surprise a food-tight tribe would kick them out. But this isn't just about them. Who knows how many 2-ton sisters like them are wandering these jungles. Taking charge, I skewer a piece of chicken with a twig. Then I wait. Nobody lunges for it. Not a single hand reaches out. In their world's unspoken rules, the strongest gets to decide who eats first. No exceptions. When resources are scarce, it's survival of the fittest, often at the cost of the young who can't fend for themselves yet. Though, it seems the women here have decided to at least stick together now. Humans, then women, and only lastly children and the elderly. The harshness of reality is brutal. But tonight, hunger isn't an issue. I sprinkled some salt on the fragrant roast chicken and handed it to Aim. Consider it a thank you for saving my life. If it weren't for her, I might have already been devoured by wild beasts. Aim, eat. Mo, she accepted it excitedly. I then sprinkled some salt for Aya, followed by the other 23 older girls, ensuring everyone got a taste of the salt. Their exaggerated, fighting for survival, eating gestures eased as flashes of contentment and light returned to their eyes. Seeing them gather strength after eating gave me a cautious sense of hope for the days that lie ahead. Later that evening, having consumed too much salt, the intense thirst drove us all out with torches. Together, we drank from a nearby stream. In the water, I noticed frogs, small fish, and shrimp, and even a half-palm-sized creature. Mentally bookmarking the spot, I noted this discovery to enhance our meals starting tomorrow. Under the torchlight, the women frolicked loudly, splashing into the water with a ferocity that bordered on outrageous. Sitting on a rock with just my feet in the stream, I felt an unusual tightness growing within me, keeping my head down in fake composure as my emotions churned. Aya, with significant effort, managed to convince the women to keep wearing their animal hide outfits or grass kilts while bathing, curbing things from escalating too far. Well, except for one person. Aim. Aim stood still in the creek, her gaze on me unwavering as she walked closer. She knelt down and, without saying much, gestured to wash my feet. Then, with a hint of childlike communication, pointed at my shirt. I froze. Bathing. Bath. She repeated her attempt at the word before, reaching directly for my clothes to strip them. No, I got this myself. I jumped into the water with a forced sense of calmness, grimacing inwardly. Aim flushed slightly, then hurriedly moved to support me. The stream looked shallow, but it was deceptively deep in certain spots. She worried I might lose my balance, so she encircled me with her arms, her hands holding me firm. In her mind, this was natural. This was her way of protecting the man she had brought back. It was in her kindness tonight I saw an unfamiliar side of Aim, soft, tender. For a brief moment, I thought that maybe these women weren't entirely as primitive as I'd initially imagined. But as we returned to the cave after the bath, a heavy silence enveloped me. Aim sat on the grass-padded bed, looking at me shyly. Sleep. Mo. The expectation in her voice was clear. I instinctively turned my eyes to the rest of the group, only to find everyone staring straight at me. Even the ones lying down hadn't averted their gaze. Aya's stance revealed no clear opinion either. It was quiet, too quiet. Their stares carried curiosity and yearning. It felt as though all oxygen was drained from the cave. Because for them, sleeping wasn't just about resting. These were women cast out of their tribes, barely adults, and with only the faintest grasp of what such a relationship truly meant. Only Aim and Aya seemed to hold a faint idea of the how and why. What they remembered was distilled into the gesture-based instruction from their elders: man sleep. Together. Now here I was, every fiber of my body saying this couldn't possibly lead to anything good. Standing still, I watched Aim frown slightly, get up, and wrap her arms around me, guiding me to lie down as she returned to her bedding. To sleep. Literally, just sleep. In that moment, I froze. Wait, you mean sleep actually just meant sleep? Still, being held snugly against her, my nerves stretched taut. Her soft warmth surrounding me left me with no place I could retreat to, forced into mental restraint to endure the prolonged proximity. Aim remained tense too at first, the unfamiliar weight of sharing a spot, clearly new territory for her. But over time, she loosened up. Sleep claimed her, her breathing growing steady. In her sleep, she murmured faintly in satisfaction. Mo smells so nice. Morning broke, and I sat near the cave entrance, restless and scattered. My first night in a wild jungle had pushed boundaries I didn't know I had, leaving me halfway between disbelief and shame. Mo. Upon hearing my name, I jolted reflexively, unable to stop myself from glancing around guiltily. Aim walked towards me. Her innocent nature betrays her straightforwardness, but my gaze schemes cautiously away, especially toward her legs. Nope, not even going there. Because Aim really doesn't think twice. When she says sleep, she means sleep. Yet ironically, the one struggling mentally over last night was me. Mo. Eat. Goo. Her soft, nurturing voice pulled me from heading further down the guilt spiral as she handed over the leftover smoked chicken from last night's meal. Her warmth stirred something even deeper, but I shook my internal hesitations loose. Grabbing the knife and gear nearby, I muttered instructions to Aya, who quickly grasped our priorities: rope, branches, wild berries. I had a responsibility. Aim had placed her unrestrained trust in me. This group now relied on my abilities for their survival. I gathered my composure, ignoring the heat from Aim still seated beside me. Focusing ahead was my only option to drown out the waves from the night before, to ready myself for another battle of survival. As I disappeared into the brush, one reassuring reminder kept me moving. Development begins today. That feels good. 6. Aya is wondering what you were up to last night. 7. Over half the older sisters in the big tribe are confused about what you were doing last night. I stared at those last 3 lines, completely speechless. What? None of you slept last night. That's it for me. I'm done. I suddenly felt the suffocating sense of social death. But then, I took a deep breath and calmed myself. Ame doesn't understand. Aya doesn't understand. And the others? Even less so. Thickening my skin, I decided to stop overthinking it. After all, it's not my fault. Ame is just too irresistible. I took another deep breath and redirected my attention to food. Wild boars to the east. Too dangerous. Not going there just yet. Yangtze alligators could provide a lot of meat, but the time needed to reach them is too much for now. Not happening. That left 2 options. 1. The fish in the small stream to the northeast. 2. The guaranteed harvest, forest area 900 meters northwest. What kind of harvest would that even be? I thought as I walked, but in the end, I went with the safer choice. No absolute strength, no experience hunting in a group. Don't gamble with your life. Life only comes around once. As long as I'm alive, opportunities for intel and gain come daily. With nothing but a sturdy knife in my hand, let's be real, against a wild boar? Not a chance. Even if I ran into an actual predator, I might not even escape. If something goes wrong halfway, it's basically a death sentence. That's not a result I can accept. I made up my mind. This has to change. A solo trek outside is too high risk and no longer an option. The older sisters in the tribe, nearly 2 meters tall, weighing in at over 200 pounds, they could probably pin me down without breaking a sweat. To not utilize their capabilities for remote hunting and gathering is a pure waste. By all logic, they should be atop the food chain here. With decent equipment, they could dominate the entire jungle. When I reached the 5th trap, I chuckled. A 10-pound third sister was hanging midair from the snare, still alive, just barely. Perfect for a meal. As I handled it with practiced ease, I gained a clearer understanding of the jungle's offerings. Meat and wood are abundant. Fish are absurdly plentiful. But do we have minerals anywhere? That's still a looming question. With lizard meat tied to my waist, I picked up the fishing net and headed toward the creek. In the water, 2 or 3-pound fish clustered in groups of about 10, with smaller fish crowding the area so densely you couldn't see through them. With a fishing rod, I'd never come back empty-handed in my life. I muttered, holding back a laugh as I cast the net. The moment the fish hit the net, they flopped about frantically. The more they thrashed, the more excited I got. Dragging the net ashore with effort, I found fish weighing several pounds, each lying everywhere, even a few larger ones going up to 5 pounds. I squatted down, trying to identify the species, but couldn't. Every single one of them, however, was plump and glistening. As long as the bones aren't too many. Otherwise, that'll be annoying when eating. A rough estimate, 40 to 50 pounds. I killed them one by one, gutting them and scaling them slowly but methodically. Every skill you learn to survive in the jungle, that's one more day you stay alive. It's not just survival. It's also the foundation for making the big tribe thrive in the future. Covered in blood, I kept working without losing steam. The strangest thing of all, the smell of fish wasn't even that strong. Then I heard it, the crunch of fallen leaves behind me. Instantly, I got to my feet, gripping my knife as I spun around and shouted, "Who's there?" "Woof, woof, woof, woof." I froze. Then my eyes adjusted. Not a dog. A gray and white wolf emerged slowly from the underbrush, growling in warning. It was so skinny it looked like a stick, but its eyes, they burned, pure ferocity. I exhaled in slight relief. With a frame like that, I could kick it over with one hit and snap its neck with another. From the looks of it, this was a lone wolf abandoned by its pack. Well, today's lucky. I get some bonus dog meat. I didn't hesitate. In fact, I got more aggressive. Sure, wolves can be tamed, but not this one. Its sharp eyes and bared teeth screamed one thing. Either it dies, or I do. Drawn by the smell of blood, all it saw were the fish and meat lying around. It wasn't leaving without a fight. Knife in one hand, wooden stick in the other, I didn't charge right away but stood my ground, growling a low threat. My heart tightened in my chest. Blood attracts bigger things, and I can't afford for this to drag on. This had to end quickly. I kept growling, my face dark and menacing, refusing to take even half a step back. The wolf bristled at the provocation, the fierceness in its eyes growing even though its body was practically skeletal. Then it lunged, snarling. Here it comes. Adrenaline surged. Any fear? Forced down hard. The wolf came at me, teeth bared, ready to strike. With one powerful kick, I slammed it in the face, sending it yelping and stumbling back. Before it could recover, I swung the stick, smashing it hard against its head. Thud! The wolf yelped again, still trying to pounce. My eyes hardened. A sharp thrust drove the knife deep into its neck. At the same time, I gripped its snout tight, locking its jaws from snapping shut around me. Thud! One stab, another and another. My vision blurred red, veins bulging on my face and arms. Who knows how many times I drove the blade in and yanked it back out. When the wolf finally lay still, no heartbeat, no movement, I collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. You're trying to fight me? What makes you think you'd win? I gritted my teeth, staggering back to my feet, quickly grabbing the fishing net and breaking tree branches to skewer some of the fish. The lizard meat at my waist was tied on tighter, and the wolf carcass dragged behind me as I made a beeline for the tribe. No time to think. Just move. Sprint. This forest? Way too dangerous. The small fish scattered on the ground. The extra stuff I couldn't carry? Forget it. I'll bring people back to pick it up later. On the way, I was gasping for air and trembling. Every slight noise made me stop in my tracks, making sure it wasn't coming for me before sprinting again. Every step felt like gambling my life in the jungle. Finally, I made it back to the main tribe. Aya and Aim saw me covered in game, and their cheers erupted, nearly screaming as they jumped and shouted around me. Their eyes fixated on the fish, stunned. This was probably something they'd barely eaten before. I glanced back at the jungle, raised my hand, and pointed. Fish. More. Fish. More. Yeah. Aya's eyes lit up instantly. Let's go. The tribe followed suit. The older sisters, with their larger builds, stomped heavily, their footsteps loud and chaotic. Any small animals that hurt us scattered quickly, and I could finally feel slightly relieved. That's when I became sure of one thing. Hunting alone was way too dangerous. I had to teach them how to hunt together. When we reached the creek, the fish were still flipping and thrashing around. The tribe immediately mimicked how I used tree branches to spear the fish, their hands trembling from excitement. But I didn't dare stay long. After encountering the gray wolf, I could feel only reverence for this forest. I urged everyone to take the food back to the tribe. Once we got back to the camp, I plopped down onto the ground, my tense expression finally relaxing a little. Aya pointed to a pile of ropes nearby. MLMO rope. I glanced at it and shook my head. Not enough. Keep going. Keep going. Not eating. Aya pointed toward the game, implying we should prepare it. I'll handle it. You guys, more ropes. Dragging the gray wolf carcass over, I pulled out my small knife and started skinning and butchering the meat. The fire was stoked higher, chunks of meat smoked over the flames, while the wolf's skin was laid out to dry. 23 older sisters continued braiding ropes and collecting wood, even if they weren't sure what on earth I needed so much of it for. No one stopped, because I was the one who could let them eat meat. Before I came here, they could only survive on wild fruits and roots, and, if lucky, pieces of leftover carcasses scavenged from what other predators left behind. But hunting an animal themselves? That was as good as a death wish. 3 hours later, the last fish was prepared. My hands reeked of blood. Irritated, I scrubbed them hard with dirt until the smell finally dulled. Looking over at the piles of ropes and sticks, my whole body felt exhausted. Eat. I picked up a piece of grilled lizard meat cooked just right and handed it to Aim, who kept sneaking glances at me but was too shy to approach. Aim walked over, crouched down in front of me, and took the meat. I quickly looked away. Aya noticed, her face darkening. Aim, no. Aim frowned slightly, but kept her voice soft. MLMO, yes. Aya was momentarily speechless, saying nothing more. I could tell Aim already saw me as one of her own. That kind of possessiveness was hard to hide, but I wasn't sure how much more I could handle. All I could do was gently say, Aim, no. Later. Sleep. Aim blushed, but lit up with a smile, nodding. She then immediately stuck to my side, as if announcing to everyone, This is her MOMO. I told everyone to sit down and eat. But soon I noticed something odd. These older sisters, each of them had calculated intentions in their gaze. Some sat with deliberate postures, others stared at me while softly giggling, and a few purposefully shifted their legs and positions to catch my attention. They were blatantly flirting. Aim exploded on the spot, pointing fingers and yelling, "Not allowed. You're not allowed. None of you are allowed." But no matter how hard she yelled, she couldn't keep up. She ended up standing in front of me, trying to shield me from every other set of eyes. I had no words. This meal was making me feel hotter and hotter by the second. After we finished eating, I looked over at the braided ropes and then at Aya, who was sitting nearby. Though younger, Aya exuded a mature, composed aura like that of an older, dependable sister. Even when sitting, she maintained a steady demeanor. I said to her, "Aya, I teach you." Aya blinked. "Teach me." Holding back my impatience, I picked up some sticks and rope, motioning for her to follow me. On the clearing near the cave, I drew out a circle roughly half an acre wide. I then started planting poles into the ground one by one, spacing them about half a meter apart. Holding the rope aloft, I explained, "Rope, wood, tie together. This is called a fence." As I spoke and demonstrated the tying process, others began gathering around to watch. Soon, a small prototype fence was complete. Pointing to it, I said, "Fence." Aya tried to repeat it. "Fun lens." I emphasized, "Fence." Aim, of course, nailed it. "Fence." Nodding, I said, "Correct. Fence." I pointed to the circle drawn in the dirt. Today, the whole tribe, fence. Originally, I'd thought of sending them out to gather wild fruits, but the nearby area was almost picked clean, and honestly, fruits required a lot of effort, but didn't fill you up. Better to get the fence built first. It might not keep out large predators, but it could stop smaller ones. Down the line, adding thorny branches would make it a decent barrier. More importantly, I wanted them to understand the concept of claiming territory. A cave by itself wasn't a tribe. The cave and the surrounding land together made a tribe. After that, I worked together with Aya to teach everyone else how to build the fence. When something new is introduced, excitement builds fast. Everyone caught on quickly. Watching 23 older sisters all working together, I finally exhaled in relief. If I'd had to do it alone, it would have taken me at least 2 days to finish. With more hands on deck, I figured we'd be done before nightfall. I glanced over at the meat roasting by the fire. It's pretty much smoked enough. Fish doesn't preserve well, and I can't bring myself to make salted fish. Salt's way too expensive. Tonight, I'll finish you off. I re-wrapped the remaining lizard and chicken meat, laid it all on some leaves, and set it out to dry. Smoked meat, once dried, lasts about 5 days at best without salt, and that makes things trickier. With salt, you can cure it to last a month or two. But right now, I've got 2 big pressing issues. First, containers. I'm lacking places to store water and food. Second, salt. It's essential for both survival and preserving meat. Thinking about containers just makes me thirstier. Water's a trek away, 500 meters from the tribe to a creek. The back and forth is infuriating. Instead of heading out right away, I cut some wood and put together a simple meat drying rack using rope. I hung all the extra meat on it before going to find Aya. "Aya, I'm thirsty." Aya didn't understand me. I pointed to my lips. She noticed how cracked and dry they were. "Water," she guessed. I paused, mentally cursing my own idiocy. "Yes, water. Let's all go together to where the water is." Aya called for everyone to stop what they were doing and prepare to head out for water. Everyone grabbed sticks, weapons. That creek is not a safe zone. At night, at least fire torches give us a slight edge, but in daylight, we must stay vigilant. I grabbed my backpack and a canteen, quietly berating myself for forgetting to fill it last night while bathing and for not boiling any drinking water. One more thing weighed on my mind during the trek. I needed to find some clay near the creek. If I could fire some pottery, I wouldn't have to make this exhausting trip for water as often. With a group of us banded together, the walk felt safer, strength in numbers and all that. Even wild boars wouldn't mess with us. Our goal wasn't hunting today, it was peace. When we arrived at the creek, the group broke into laughter and playfulness, messing around. I watched for a moment before stepping into the water myself, cooling off the heat while strolling along the shore in search of clay. It didn't take long before I spotted a deposit of clay at a natural embankment. Years of water flow had settled it there. I grabbed a handful, confirming it was indeed clay, and felt a surge of excitement. But then reality hit me. How the heck was I supposed to transport it back? Cupping it in my hands wasn't going to cut it. That's when Aim quietly snuck up behind me, staring at my wet body and completely zoning out. I didn't notice at first, but as I turned, I realized the group of older women in the creek had all fallen silent, their gazes fixed on me, swallowing nervously. The atmosphere took a weird turn. Got it. Looking up, I spotted a cluster of banana trees nearby. Some even had banana bunches beginning to ripen. The bananas themselves were near edible, but what caught my eye were the large, sturdy banana leaves. By folding the leaves into makeshift wraps, I could pack a good amount of clay while keeping it moist. Turning to Aim, I pointed at the banana trees, saying, "Aim, Momo wants that." The words hadn't even left my mouth before everyone bolted, racing to gather bananas. Even Aya joined the banana frenzy. Aim was fuming in the water, stomping her feet and muttering under her breath. Momo asked for me, though. Her every motion drew all attention. I clenched my teeth, deciding that if she didn't behave tonight, no more mercy. The older women gathered a bundle of bananas and kept shoving them toward me, eager to show their effort. I waved them off, taking just one banana before pointing to the highest banana leaf. That one sat out of reach, nearly 4 meters up the tree. Even Aim and the others, despite how tall they were, shook their heads, saying it was impossible. I took a bite of the banana. It tasted decent, nothing spectacular. Turning, I looked at Aya, who was the tallest of the group. "Aya, lift me up." Everyone froze. Aya didn't understand right away, but Aim's face darkened. She clearly interpreted the words differently. I clarified by making gestures, wrapping my arms as if hugging and pointing upward toward the large banana leaf. Finally, I got the hint. She walked over with a smile, opened her arms, and scooped me up into her embrace. To her, I must have seemed small and soft, like a little cub she instinctively wanted to protect. Her gaze softened, bordering on tender. In her tight grip, my neck was getting crushed. I coughed to signal her to move on and pointed at the banana leaf again. "Lift me. Up there." Aim dashed over, stepping between us, her expression fierce. No. Her message was clear. Momo was hers alone to carry. Aya awkwardly faltered, clearly unsure what to do, while I struggled to contain my frustration. "Now. I need that leaf. This is important." I snapped. Aim understood, but didn't seem any less annoyed. Finally catching up, Aya realized I wanted her to lift me up to reach the leaf. Laughing, she walked to the banana tree and raised me high. I plucked an armful of banana leaves before nodding for her to set me down. Aya's eyes brimmed with fondness and affection. Immediately, Aim pulled me back into her own arms, holding me with a ferociously protective stance. In a low voice, she stated firmly, "Momo's mine." Aya shrugged, replying with a smirk, "Momo's yours." Suppressing my mounting irritation, I growled, "Put me down. We'll deal with this later tonight." Reluctantly, Im let me go, though the defiance in her gaze warned she wasn't giving up easily. Ignoring their attempt at some awkward power play, I directed the group to keep harvesting bananas, while I headed to the riverbank to dig for clay. Later, fully dressed, I caught sight of everyone staring. Not just glancing, but staring, with visible disappointment in their expressions. It wasn't hard to guess what was going through their minds. I didn't call them out on it, pretending not to notice at all. With our haul of bananas and the clay neatly wrapped in banana leaves, we began the journey back. On the way, I checked several traps we'd set beforehand. Amazingly, they were intact and loaded. The bait had worked perfectly, yielding 3 wild hens and a small deer. The deer was a young one, about 50 pounds, thoroughly tangled in the rope snare. Had it not been, it would have bolted long ago. One clean and precise thrust, ending it instantly. Back at the main tribe, Aya and Aim's gazes toward me grew even more passionate. A guy this small could go out for water and return with a deer and some chickens. I glanced at the crowd, faces full of admiration, and uttered just one sentence. "Once you all learn, you'll be better than me." I didn't elaborate further. Right now, the focus was on getting pottery made. I told Aya and the others to keep working on the fence while I squatted on the ground, staring at a pile of clay and reorganizing the steps in my head. Remove impurities, shape it, air dry, and then fire it. I got to work carefully, picking out little stones and grit bit by bit, creating clean clay. Adding water, I began sculpting the base of a water jug, slowly building it up from the bottom in layers. By afternoon, they had finished the fence. Exhausted, Aya, Aim, and the others gathered around to watch me play with mud. They played with clay as kids, but had never seen anyone make something like this. When the last of 5 water jugs was completed, I let out a sigh of relief. Let them air dry before firing. I set the 5 clay jugs out in a ventilated area to dry. Looking up at the sky, I called out, "Aya." She quickly came over, attentive as always. "Momo." I pointed to the ground. "Dig up some clay." Before she could even comprehend, I pulled a soldier's folding shovel out of my pack. A few quick moves, and the surface layer of soil was peeled away. Everyone around froze in shock. Using a wooden stick, I pointed at the pit I'd started. "Just like this. Dig, and pile all the clay over there." Only then did the group begin moving. Tired as they were, no one dared to stop. I didn't want to overburden anyone, but the kiln had to be finished. If there's no place for firing, all the previous efforts on pottery would be wasted. Plus, this kiln would not only fire pottery, but could also bake food. And who knows, if we ever find iron or down the line, it might play an even bigger role. With these thoughts in mind, I pushed myself harder, loosening more soil to help everyone dig and pile faster. By nightfall, the entire group was utterly spent, collapsing in place. Their energy had been drained. I looked at the mound of soil, then at the rack of dried fish, jerky, and a bunch of bananas, and simply said, "Eat." Late at night, after washing the grime off and drinking a fair amount of boiled water, I lay back on my straw pile, sharing the cramped space with another. "Momo," Aim whispered shyly, her voice both flustered and filled with excitement. I responded. Eyes shut, she clung onto me. This night would be one for her to remember forever. By dawn, I felt well rested. Standing by the cave entrance, I breathed in the crisp morning air, stretching a bit as I rubbed my lower back. We're finally getting somewhere. I went over to check on the clay jugs, inspecting each carefully, down to the smallest detail. No cracks. My eyes lit up. The clay's clean, and it air-dried just right. Yesterday's hard work paid off. The exteriors were completely dry, though the interiors still held a bit of moisture. Perfect timing. Once the kiln structure was finished, they'd be ready for firing. Without distraction, I jumped into preparations, neglecting any need for hunting. This was the time when beasts were most active, and taking risks wasn't worth it. My focus was solely on building the kiln. I gathering branches and extra rope to assemble the kiln's frame. "Momo." Aya approached, her face slightly flushed with curiosity and reservation. "Does sleeping at night lead to having babies?" I froze for a moment. Last night had me treading a dangerous line, yet I managed to keep my head clear in the end. Having kids right now would be catastrophic. No healthcare, no sanitation, no safe environment, and barely a glimpse of stable food sources. So how would a baby be born, raised, or survive? I'd thought this through all night, troubled the more I pondered. I braced myself, replying simply, "Sleeping doesn't lead to babies." Aya frowned instantly. From what her elders used to say, babies came from sleeping together, yet here I was, claiming otherwise. The more she mulled it over, the more she doubted, and she pressed. "So, Suimo, you didn't sleep?" As head of the tribe, her watchful eye never faltered. There was only one man in the tribe, the treasure Aim had found and brought back. She'd been discreetly keeping tabs every night. So does that not count? What does count then? I cleared my throat, irritation gnawing at me. It wasn't as if I didn't want to. It's that I couldn't afford to gamble right now. I let out a deep sigh and replied seriously, "We'll talk about this in the future." Aya sighed as well, but her tone grew more insistent. "The main tribe has only one man, you. That's dangerous. We need you. We need children. We'll raise them." She looked at me, her face sincere yet tinged with a blush. The pressure of her words hit me like a weight. There was no evading this. After a moment of silence, I replied, "There will be. I'll make sure of it, but not now." Aya paused, processing my words. "Not now. Right. Later." A resolute, "Right," escaped my lips again. Her eyes narrowed, and she delivered one last blow. "So what are you doing?" Aim was sleeping soundly. I opened my mouth but couldn't utter a defense. Her questions left me thunderstruck. Not willing to dwell further, I muttered lightly, "Half a child." Aya blinked, confused. She then pivoted. "Today you're gathering tree branches? Big ones." I instantly deflected. "Today's already packed." Oblivious, yet somewhat satisfied, Aya nodded and turned to organize the team to haul larger branches. Meanwhile, I stayed put and continued weaving the kiln's frame. We're either caught by hand or speared, and even then, seldom in large quantities. But with just one throw of my mysterious weapon, I could pull up a whole haul of them. The tribe's women stared at me like they'd seen magic. "See," I said, shaking the net slightly to show the wriggling fish inside. "Efficient and repeatable. This is how we hunt fish. Remember this." I tossed the net back into the water, and while the fish thrashed helplessly within it, I turned toward the group. "Someone come here." Hesitant, it was Alea again who stepped forward. Though her tall, muscular frame moved cautiously, her eyes flickered with growing determination. "Watch closely. You grab here," I demonstrated, gripping the net firmly with both hands, "and pull upward like this. The fish can't escape when the net tightens." "Understand." Alea nodded fiercely. I handed her the net, and despite a slightly clumsy start, she managed to lift it well enough, securing another batch of fish. The women cheered lightly, small victories. Then, one by one, others stepped forward to try, gaining confidence and coordination as they mimicked the motions. By the time twilight began to settle, we had gathered not just fish but a spark of assurance within the group. My survival methods weren't just mine anymore. They were quickly becoming collective knowledge. On the trek back to camp, the atmosphere was notably lighter. Carrying fresh kills, women chatted softly about the traps, spears, nets, and the food they'd supply. Their fear seemed to ebb as the realization hit. They weren't helpless, not anymore. Back at the campfire, while roasting chunks of seasoned deer and fish, I began carving another spearhead. Alea sat beside me, quietly twirling a spear in her hands. At one point, she glanced my way. "Momo," she began, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "You really believe we can do this? Survive like you?" I paused, tilting my head toward her. For a moment, I simply stared at the flickering flames dancing in her wide, curious eyes. "You already are," I said finally. "You're hunting, trapping, gathering. This, all of it, is survival. You're doing it." Alea's lips quirked upward. Not quite a smile, but close. "This tribe," I continued, gesturing to the others absorbed in their tasks or laughter, "won't just survive. It'll thrive. And it starts with learning. Always learning." She didn't say anything in return, but her grip on the spear tightened with a renewed sense of purpose. As the first stars blinked into view above us, I allowed myself a rare moment of reflection. This wasn't just survival anymore, it was growth. Maybe even hope. With every hunt, every trap, every throw of the net, we were shaping a future together. A future where none of us would have to face the wilderness alone. You can only pick up dead ones, wait for the fish to jump ashore, or use a spear to stab into the water. But the fish are slippery and fast, so they couldn't catch or stab them. I, however, managed to scoop out several at once, grinning and saying this was a big win for today. Even without using the daily intel panel, I gathered nearly 100 pounds of meat. By the afternoon, I was contemplating taking Aya and the others further out to explore. Not in the mood to overthink, I simply shouted, "Bath time!" Immediately, a group of them cheered and jumped into the creek. The cold water felt just right, and they played like it was a festival. Watching them, their joy seemed so ridiculously simple. I filled my water jug and had Aya lift me up to pluck a bunch of banana leaves. Banana leaves could hold some water. I cleaned out the stomach and intestines of the deer, stuffing them to hold liquid. The deer blood also went into the leaves. Aya saw the pile of water bags and shook her head nervously. "Momo, no drinking it. You'll get a stomachache." I explained, "Not for drinking. We're taking it back to the main tribe. It's useful." Only then did Aya let out a sigh of relief, but she mentally noted down the word innards. On our way back, a dozen older women carried the banana leaf water containers and walked them all the way to the tribe. As soon as I arrived at the camp, I gestured towards Aya's chest area. Ame instantly became annoyed, storming over and pointing at her beast-hide clothing. She even tugged it dramatically, as if warning me not to choose Aya. Aya misunderstood as well, gritting her teeth as she took a step forward, struggling inside. If I wanted her, she wouldn't refuse. The expressions of the older women darkened, and the atmosphere became tense. I quickly clarified, beast hide, clothes, cover. I pointed toward the deer hide, and then the wolf hides and deer hides drying from yesterday, signaling that I wanted new clothing made. Aya finally caught on, her ears burning red. But Ame and the others didn't understand. Ame kept tugging at her own shirt. Frustrated, I grabbed the edge of her hide and gave it a tug. In response, Ame picked me up and hugged me tightly against her chest. Caught in her beast hide clothing, I froze. Just as I was about to speak, I quickly bit my tongue, repeatedly emphasizing, clothes, clothes. Aya couldn't take it anymore and interjected, Ame, shame on you. The group finally understood, and their expressions turned complicated. Ame froze in place, realizing it wasn't about wanting her, but actually about wanting clothes. Her face flushed deep red. I couldn't help but laugh and cry at the situation, fixing her clothes properly and tying them back in place. I quietly added, tonight. Sleep. Cuddle. Ame looked up, biting her lip. Her gaze immediately softened. When it came to making beast hide clothing, Aya and her team were the experts. Once I prepped the hides, I handed them off to them. As I worked with the clay, I couldn't help but worry about the lack of silkworms and rami plants. Beast hides were better than grass outfits, but they weren't as durable as linen or cotton cloth. While I didn't have much, it was still important to maintain a bit of civility. They all understood shame, after all. Besides, in the rainforest, if it rains for days and the temperature drops, a single beast hide is far from enough to keep warm. By mid-afternoon, I finally finished building the kiln. I immediately lit it to set the shape and placed 5 clay water bottles inside. Keeping a steady watch on the fire, I sighed internally. Without access to ores, I couldn't glaze the ceramics, which meant they wouldn't be very durable. Firing the ceramics would take almost 2 full days without interruption. Once fired, the items needed to cool down, and the fire's intensity couldn't falter for even a moment. That's why we had gathered so many branches. I wanted to make water jars and, ideally, something to store grain for longer periods. It was still 3 or 4 hours until nightfall. As I added more firewood, I opened up the panel. Daily intel. 1. 3 kilometers east, wild boar carcass from a fight. 2. 1 kilometer northeast, across the stream, abandoned gray wolf carcass from a pack. 3. 900 meters northwest in the dense forest, approaching guarantees of find. 4. 3 kilometers southwest, a severely wounded saber-toothed tiger. 5. 12 out of 20 traps have been triggered. 6. Aya is thinking, if you share a bed with her, will Ame get mad? 7. Ame hopes you'll move a bit more tonight. I looked up at Aya. She held a small blade, happily working on the deer meat. It was much faster and easier to use. Then there was Ame. She stared daggers at Aya, her face turning red as she gave her the boldest and most straightforward look of challenge. I smiled at Ame. Ame turned away in embarrassment, focusing on skewering deer meat. All I felt was a growing headache. The other intel points seemed too far. Heading out wouldn't be safe. Only the third point sounded reasonable, and it appeared yesterday too. Why hadn't this information expired yet? 900 meters northwest in the dense forest, approaching guarantees of find. 900 meters, not too close, but not too far either. Should I check it out to see what this find really is? I thought it over while continuing to prep food. Fish bones were expertly deboned and snapped into pieces, stored separately to be used as needles or fishing hooks. Deer bones were saved too, as I instructed Aya to carefully remove the meat. The bone frames could dry out to later be turned into bone blades or weapons. However, in the next moment, Momo, Aya called out to me. I looked up and saw several older women behind her holding lotus leaves. Inside were deer innards, including a pair of kidney-shaped things. My expression instantly turned quirky. Aya smiled sweetly as she spoke. Momo, here, try this. It's yummy. In their eyes, I had already become the tribe's strongest man. Something like offal, which should have been a delicacy reserved for Aya, was now being directly offered to me with both hands. This wasn't simply about sharing food, it was elevating my status. I accepted it, but found a way to be modest. Thanks. But Aya, you're still the most important around here. Upon hearing that, Aya's eyes lit up. Once the deer meat was prepped, I told everyone to continue roasting it while I grabbed my backpack and knife, preparing to check the traps with 5 of the older women. Out of 20 traps, 12 had been triggered. I had no idea how much of a haul we could expect. On the way, I kept an eye out for plants. If we could find some rami or maybe something that could help us raise silkworms, we'd be set for clothing, I muttered. And then, as if on cue, I spotted something. Wait. I told the group to stop for a moment. Walking over with a spade to what looked like a random patch of greenery, I realized there was an entire spread of it nearby. Wild ginger. Before the others could process what I said, I was already feeling both anxious and wildly excited. I knelt to examine it closer. The leaves resembled bamboo, but were longer and wider, with a thick stalk almost a meter tall. I'd walked past this stuff countless times before, always thinking it was just another boring weed. But now, looking at it again, only one thought rang loud and clear in my mind. Jackpot! Ginger isn't just good for warming you up. It's anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and helps digestion. During the rainy season, even a single cup of ginger tea could have the number of health issues we'd face. Suppressing my excitement, I patiently loosened the soil with the spade and carefully uncovered the roots. When I saw that unmistakable ginger root, I couldn't help but grin. It really is. I turned to the women with me and called out, "This is incredible." Hearing my enthused shout, the 5 women came over, curious. But when they saw the plump roots, their expressions shifted to mild disgust. "This stuff's not tasty," they said, shaking their heads. Apparently, they usually avoided ginger unless they had no other choice and preferred fruits over this spicy root. I was speechless, silently cursing. You could have told me earlier, this stuff was like medicine. A lifeline during the rainy season. Are there more? I asked impatiently. One of them raised a hand, pointing toward a patch in the distance. Without wasting time, I picked up the pace and harvested all the wild ginger in the area, planning to transplant it back at the tribe. In times like this, having access to medicinal resources was as critical as gold. Tastes bad? You just don't know how to use it yet. After gathering the first batch for them to take back, I kept going in search of more, eventually collecting 60 plants. With a stash this size, I figured the survival rate should be solid. Leaving one of the women to carry the ginger back, I led the others to finish inspecting the traps. Out of the triggered ones, we caught 6 wild chickens and even found a dying wolf. The chickens were intact enough, though the wolf was scrawny, slightly meatier than the one we caught before, but had wounds on its left front leg and its right hind leg, barely clinging to life. Erg! The gray wolf whimpered as I approached, baring its teeth defensively. I had initially planned to see if I could tame it, but seeing its state, I abandoned that idea and ended its suffering with one swift slash. After gutting it, I redistributed the internal organs as bait for the traps. With that settled, we headed back to the tribe. When Aya and Ames saw me return with more animals, they immediately came over with freshly roasted venison and organ meat. "Momo, it's good, eat some." Eat. I accepted the food they offered and glanced at the sky. Only about an hour remained until nightfall. My thoughts drifted to some intel I had seen earlier. Asterisk, thick forest 900 meters northwest. Approaching it guarantees a discovery. Asterisk. The idea bugged me like a thorn in my mind. 900 meters was a far reach. Typically, I only dared to hunt within a 500 to 600 meter radius. Tomorrow, I resolved. If it's still there, I'll gather everyone to check it out. Hopefully, it'll be worth the trek. Handing my knife to Aya, I asked her to work on the wolf's fur. The drying rack now held 2 wolf hides and 2 deer pelts. By the usual standard, this should be enough to cover the tribe's needs, but with the women's figures being generous, it clearly wasn't going to cut it. The deer hide could maybe be stitched into makeshift tops for 4 women, but the wolf pelts? Right now, they'd only make a flashy miniskirt at best. If I converted one into boxers instead, at least they wouldn't risk accidental exposure. While eating, I gestured and started explaining my ideas for adjustments to Aya. She didn't quite get it until I pointed out the areas we'd need to cover. Her face turned beet red as she quickly looked away, shaking her head. No way. Aya didn't explain further, but Ames seemed to pick up on something and began glaring at me in discontent. "It's not for sleeping," I clarified hurriedly. It's for modesty. Aya seemed even more confused, misinterpreting my intentions entirely. The hides weren't properly dried yet anyway, so I decided to shelve the issue for later. If need be, I'd just handle it myself tomorrow. That night, after everyone had their fill of venison, the women independently went down to the stream to bathe. I hadn't instructed them to. They did it entirely on their own initiative. Surprisingly, even in this primitive world, they prioritized staying clean, washing at least once or twice daily. Back at the cave, I returned to my spot, lying down in Aim's embrace as I tried to clear my head of the whirlwind of thoughts. But her natural scent was intoxicating, utterly distracting. To make matters worse, I could feel eyes on us from within the cave, which left me no choice but to suppress any movement. Aim, on the other hand, was less restrained, nudging closer and urging softly, "Momo, sleep." I murmured in response, sleep." Ame got more anxious as she urged, her body temperature also climbing. "Sleep, sleep." The cave was so quiet in the deep of night. Only the sound of our breathing remained. Ame slept deeply, but my heart was pounding hard. For the benefit of the tribe, I had to tough it out and see it through. When I woke up, I found myself still pressing down on Ame. Everyone else had already left the cave, leaving just the two of us behind. I was about to get up when I suddenly noticed I couldn't move, as though I were being held down. It hit me instantly. Last night, I overdid it, and now it was coming back to bite me. I quickly nudged Ame. "Ame, wake up." She opened her eyes, and her complexion was unnaturally glowing, her skin practically luminous. She looked even more beautiful, almost otherworldly. She let out a soft hum, and only then could I move again. Ame leaned close, gave me a quick muah kiss on the cheek, then turned and shyly ran out of the cave. My heart sank a little. Oh no, I've done too much. I hope no one figures it out. I hurried to check on the kiln fire. The fire was still going. It hadn't gone out. Aya ambled up to me. I added wood. Fire, still burning. I let out a sigh of relief and peeked inside the kiln. The water vessel inside had dried and stabilized, no cracks formed. If it stayed like this till the afternoon, it would probably be ready. As I stared absent-mindedly at the kiln, someone suddenly poked me. I ignored it. But then, they poked me again. I spun around sharply, and there was Aya, her face flushed red, her hand hesitatingly reaching toward me. I tensed immediately. "What are you doing?" She straightened up, averting her eyes but stubbornly pressing on. "Momo, children?" My heart sank yet again. I've been found out after all. Scratching the back of my head, I silently nodded in admission. Aya was stunned, speaking clearly out of shock. "Really?" I nodded again. Her grateful smile immediately appeared, and she thanked me. "Thank you, Momo." The longer I listened, the more uneasy I felt. I hurried to explain. "It's not that fast. It takes a long, long time." Aya seemed halfway convinced. She remembered vaguely that pregnancies took a long time for the women of the tribe. She nodded. I understand." I thought the conversation was over, but then her next question left me utterly speechless. In a quiet voice, almost like stealing words, Aya murmured, "Momo, can we?" I fell into silence. Aya's towering 6-foot, 6-inch frame radiated an imposing aura, but her eyes reflected pure sincerity. She wanted to have a strong and intelligent child, one who'd inherit strengths like mine, for the sake of the tribe. Aya blushed as she gestured with both hands, roughly modeling a baby bump size over her stomach, repeatedly mentioning wanting a boy. She was anxious, wanting to make herself clear, but my gaze inadvertently drifted to Ame. She was walking awkwardly, noticeably limping with one leg, heading toward the creek with a group. My heart wavered with guilt. Before disappearing into the forest, Ame turned back and gave me a sweet smile before leaving. I understood what she meant by sleep. She had never rested so well before, all thanks to me. Meanwhile, Aya was sitting across from me, dead serious. And I was conflicted. Momo needs rest. After last night's ordeal, I still hadn't recovered. I'll admit, it was probably the happiest day I'd had so far, but right now I felt utterly drained. Aya was the queen of our great tribe. If she asked for a child, how could I refuse? But having children wasn't something that could be decided on a whim. Without stable resources, enough ongoing food supplies, safe shelter, or even clean bedding, what would be the point? The baby might not even survive. Primitive tribes aren't short on babies, but those who actually grow up are heartbreakingly few. I don't want to let that harsh reality repeat itself. I want to build the tribe up first. What happened with Ame was a fluke. I'm a man, not a stone statue. I have limits. Aya seemed to have anticipated my answer. She just nodded. I'll listen to Momo. Whenever you're ready, Aya will be too. I gave her my promise. When the time comes, definitely. I knew this was a problem I could only avoid for so long. To grow our tribe, we needed to expand the population, but honestly, I wanted to shoulder as much of the burden myself as I could. As for other tribes, if we ever came across them, chances were high it would end in conflict or war. It's better to establish boundaries and keep them down if possible. But if unavoidable, we'd better have the kind of weapon that ends disputes swiftly and decisively. That morning, I focused on the kiln's heat and temperature. Aya led others in gathering tree branches, then organized tribeswomen to treat animal hides, preparing to make clothes for those still without proper coverings. I pitched in with the designs. But once we laid everything out, it became clear that the dried leather wouldn't stretch far, barely enough to make a few women some overly short bottoms, with some scraps left for patching or small garments. I tried to explain my idea for four-legged shorts, but Aya just couldn't follow. I even used my hands to demonstrate on another woman's legs, yet everyone still looked blank. My next idea was to draw reference lines with mud, starting from the waist. But before I could, Ame intercepted me, bristling with jealousy. I had no choice but to retreat, suppressing my growing annoyance as I coaxed her. Behave. This is for making clothes. Still, Ame wasn't appeased. She mumbled darkly, Momo's mine. I glanced at her short fur skirt, quickly retreating further to avoid things escalating. From her stormy expression, I could only surrender a compromise. Fine, we'll make Ame's first. Instantly, Ame's face lit up with a brilliant smile. Only then did I realize. She wasn't confused. She just didn't want me prioritizing what I designed for others over her. Aya caught on as well, pointing to Ame's ridiculously short fur skirt and commented. Start with Aim first, I said with a nod before beginning to measure. Aim obediently stood still as I used her as a model. Soon enough, I had Aya braid some thin, durable leather cords. I started cutting and stitching, adding new pieces to Aim's old animal cloth, extending her chest wrap so it hung far enough to cover her navel. I thought about giving Aim new hide pants, but in broad daylight, it felt a bit too conspicuous. Aim clearly understood and just tugged me back to the cave. Once inside, she plopped down on the grass pile, her gaze on me heated and unwavering. I was at a loss for words, but knew she was waiting for me to make the first move. Resigned, I had no choice but to tighten the new hide pants around her waist with the leather cord. The chest wrap was tied securely too, the string looping around her neck and back, snug and firm. Aim smiled like she'd just struck gold, hugging me tightly and planting several kisses on my face. Holding back my frustration, I could only mutter, "Don't act up tonight. Hugs only, okay?" Aim simply kissed me again without hesitation. After finishing dressing her, I took Aim outside to let everyone see. She lifted her chin and made a slow round among the others, pride practically radiating off her. The older women saw the well-fitted pants, which covered everything without fear of accidental exposure unless intentionally removed. They were snug, secure, and practical, even staying in place while moving or jumping. Naturally, everyone looked at her with envy. They had been taught since childhood not to expose themselves before others. But now, with me around, strong, pale-skinned, and attractive, some couldn't help but let their thoughts stray. Aya, in particular, inspected Aim's chest wrap and pants closely, even tugging slightly at them. Aim, chin held high, led her without protest, proudly declaring, Momo made this for me. The other women quickly gathered around, saying my name over and over. Aya, usually composed, frowned slightly, asserting her dominance given her stature and status. She declared firmly, Aya wants one. Aya first. With the commanding presence of a queen, she silenced everyone around her. I quickly intervened, trying to calm things down. There's enough for everyone. You'll all have your turn. To steer the topic back to the hunt, I added, let's go check the traps or catch something fresh. Bring back some game, and I'll make yours. Excitement washed over them, and, spears in hand, They rushed into the jungle faster than I'd ever seen. Turning back, I looked up at Aya, towering at over 8 feet, around 2.5 meters, feeling a lump form in my throat. Aya stepped closer, her tone low and insistent. Momo, make Aya's. Left with no choice, I got to work, careful not to waste any material. I made her chest wrap larger and longer and fashioned a pair of shorts that covered everything thoroughly. Aya didn't know how to put them on, so I had to direct her toward the cave. In there, I said. Blushing yet filled with anticipation, she nodded. By now, she had already decided, when the time came, only I would do. The dim cave light made everything feel heavier. As she loomed over me, her sheer presence alone was enough to quicken my heartbeat. Fighting to keep steady, I gingerly tied each knot in place. Once finished, something struck me. Wait a moment, I said. She sat down with childlike curiosity on the grass pile, her hands smoothing over her new clothes, clearly satisfied. I dashed toward the makeshift pen, startling the clucking birds inside. My swift reflexes snapped up a particularly clumsy hen, and I plucked a few feathers straight from its body. One chicken, then another. I continued until I had collected enough feathers for my project. Back to Aya, I presented her with a feathered headdress, bound with grass cord. Grinning, I explained, Aya is the queen, and this is her crown, the mark of a ruler and our tribe's symbol. She froze, her wide eyes fixated on the headdress in my hands. The mix of white, black, and red feathers was both striking and regal. Carefully, I arranged her long hair and tied the headdress securely in place. Aya, so close now, caught the scent lingering on my skin and flushed, her heart suddenly racing. Done. Let's head out and show everyone, I said, pulling her out of the cave. In the sun's light, she stood tall, radiant, with her feathered crown and the combination of a deer-hide chest wrap and wolf-hide shorts. Her attire didn't just cover her, it screamed authority and strength. It was like her status was proudly sewn into every stitch. I couldn't help myself. Aya, you look amazing. Her cheeks turned rosy as she responded with a soft, flirtatious smile. Thank you, Momo. By noon, the group had returned from the forest, bringing their haul back to the village. Aim carried a freshly skinned lizard, while the others triumphantly brought back 6 jungle fowl and 3 ash-gray rabbits. The rabbits were uninjured, seemingly dying of fright, their eyes dull and lifeless. The rabbit fur felt soft as I ran my fingers over it, perfect for making chest wraps to cover everyone modestly. Aya pointed to the drying rack, a trace of awe in her voice. Momo, we have so much meat now. I nodded. The cave already had nearly 20 live chickens, plus dried fish, venison jerky, dog meat, even leftover lizard meat. Hunger wouldn't be an issue for days to come, maybe longer. Let's process all of this first. Keep the jungle fowl alive in the cave, I instructed as I handed Aya the rest of the skinning duties. The others kept bringing glances to Aya, her feathered crown, her attire. From their admiration to the envy in their eyes, their reactions made Aya's lips fight a triumphant smile. Aim shot a few narrowed glances toward Aya's direction, clearly not thrilled. But she grasped the significance of the feathers. They were marks of leadership. Only Momo and Aya could wear something like that. Still, she refused to give up. Clenching her fists, she resolved herself. If she had a child, it would grant her higher status too. Her simmering determination was written plainly on her face as she turned to look at me, her gaze practically burning. Avoiding her eyes, I turned to check the earthen kiln. The temperature was just right. Pulling out the clay water pots carefully, I set them aside in the shade to cool gradually. There were 5 pots, but upon inspection, I noticed a small crack in the lip of one. Though damaged, it was still usable. The rest of it was still intact, and the inside was relatively smooth. Letting out a sigh of relief, I muttered, "Please don't crack again." Aya and Aim leaned closer, scrutinizing the oddly uniform batch of pots. Aya asked, "Momo, what is this?" I raised my chin proudly. "For holding water. Now we won't have to keep running to the stream." Aya's eyes lit up instantly, clearly grasping how valuable these were. I estimated each pot could hold about 10 liters. With 5 pots, that's 50 liters, enough for one day's water supply, plus water for watering ginger crops, washing hands, or boiling water. These pots were sturdy too, They wouldn't break just from dropping them on a dirt floor, unless you hit them with a rock. This was, by far, the most accomplished I'd felt since arriving here. Let's eat some meat. Then we move out. I called everyone over. Aya answered, bringing the rest of the tribe along to eat. In good spirits, I ate a fair bit myself. Casually, I opened my daily intelligence panel. Today's updates. 3 kilometers east, in a pond, there are 2 dying Yangtze alligators. 2 kilometers northeast of the creek, there's a forest where a group of rabbits are relocating and looking for new burrows. In the forest 900 meters northwest, there is guaranteed bounty if approached. In a grassland 3 kilometers south, a robust saber-toothed tiger is lying in ambush. 3 kilometers southeast in a clearing, there's a wild horse grazing. Additionally, Aya likes you and wants to discuss this with Aim at the right time. Aim thinks the clothes you made are comfortable and is considering having children with you. Children? I gnawed on my lizard meat while sneaking peeks at Aim beside me. Aim was staring intently at me, her gaze practically burning, yet she handed over more meat for me to eat. Shaking my head, I gestured for her to eat first. She seemed to have grown fairer, and her arms looked smoother and softer lately. Leaning closer, Aim shyly but bluntly murmured, "Tonight, sleep together." As soon as she finished, she turned away, her ears burning red. I chuckled softly and shifted my gaze to Aya. Aya was quietly nibbling on dried meat, seemingly lost in thought. But my mind was in turmoil. Those updates, I couldn't deal with them all at the moment. Even if the alligators 3 kilometers away were fat and tempting, I wouldn't take anyone there. And with a saber-toothed tiger lurking in the south, that area was completely off limits. That left the third report, the one that had been appearing consistently for 3 days now. 900 meters northwest. Guaranteed bounty if approached. That one sentence was like a hook constantly tugging at me. I rubbed Aim's arm briefly, and her eyes filled with coquettishness. But I pushed those thoughts aside and pointed northwest. "Is it dangerous over there?" I asked. Aim froze for a second, then turned to ask Aya. After pondering for a moment, Aya nodded. My heart tightened. What kind of danger? Aya stood up and gestured wildly for a while, before mimicking a sound. Moo. The group all nodded vigorously, their eyes filled with unease. I understood immediately. There was a large creature that mooed, scaring them off whenever they encountered it. Yet, instead of being deterred, I was even more intrigued. What they feared might not be something deadly. It could just be unfamiliar to them. And if the update said, guaranteed bounty, I couldn't let my hesitation hold me back forever. After finishing the dried meat, I began adjusting our gear. Using deer bones, I hammered and sharpened them, split them into spikes, and secured them with rope to make spearheads. In one go, I made around 10. Though the deer bones weren't too big, they'd do the job. None of us know what's 900 meters out there, I said, testing one of the spears. So let's make sure to gear up before checking it out. I ensured that everyone's weapons were adequately upgraded before preparing to head out. Turning to Aya, I said, "Come with me, hunting and gathering." Aya wasn't exactly on board with heading northwest. She could already tell it wasn't going to be an easy trek. But my firm resolve clearly overpowered her lingering fear of the Moo monster. Finally, she reluctantly rallied the others to follow. Looking at this group of towering women, I found the contrast amusing. Each one around 2 meters tall, carrying loads of 50 kilos as if they were feather light, yet still so timid. It wasn't really their fault, though. One snake bite in their tribe usually meant death. I'll build their confidence, I thought to myself. They had strength, they had the foundation, they just needed experience. Bloodshed, danger, they needed to see it firsthand. We set off after confirming the direction. The path was littered with brush and overgrown branches. Sometimes it was wide open, other times so dense you'd have to crawl through. Using my small knife, I worked to clear the way, stopping occasionally to have everyone pause, listen, and scan our surroundings. After some time, I came to an abrupt stop. Turning to Aya, I ordered, "Hand me the spear." Without hesitation, Aya passed me the weapon, a wooden staff tipped with the bone spearhead. I held my breath, staring ahead. There it was, a nearly 10-meter-long serpent, sprawled across the path. Its body was thick and golden, adorned with white markings that eerily resembled human faces, complete with eyes and noses. Its belly bulged, suggesting it had just finished swallowing something. Aya saw it too and immediately called for the others. Aim trembled. The rest looked ready to bolt. They'd always opted to flee when encountering snakes this size. But I stood firm, gripping my spear tightly. Aim gritted her teeth and kept close, while the others reluctantly followed, some trembling so much they couldn't even look. Aya, on the other hand, also raised her spear and moved in beside me. The snake, lethargic from its meal, didn't react much, almost as if it were observing us. What are these two-legged creatures up to? But I knew full well that once its hunger returned, it would not stay this docile. Lowering my voice, I whispered, "I'll go for its head. You guys aim for the body." Em looked confused, shaking her head as she muttered, "Don't know." Those were the 3 words she just learned last night, and now she was putting them to use. Ignoring her confusion, I continued giving instructions through Aya's translation. Yeah, speaking in the tribe's language, gestured as she exclaimed, "Momo here. Hit here, here, and here." She kept changing her pointing spot to clarify, and only then did everyone understand. You turned back to me and said, "They got it now." That was good enough. A 10-meter-long snake, its head bigger than a fist and its thickest part wider than my thigh. Even after skinning and gutting, there would still be 100 pounds of meat left. As I was wondering if the snake gall was edible, the venomous serpent suddenly bared its fangs and spewed venom. A sly old snake. It was starting to fight back. I hesitated no more, lunging my spear deep into the soft spot behind its head where the bones didn't shield it. A piercing sound rang out as the bone blade penetrated, pinning the snake into the ground. But the body still thrashed frantically, its massive, muscular girth lashed out, slamming into my legs with excruciating force. You saw me take the hit and rushed forward without hesitation, stabbing the snake's neck viciously. Ami, in a panic, threw her spear aside and grabbed the snake's body with her bare hands, holding it firmly so it couldn't whip its tail around anymore. The others seized the opportunity, jumping in and repeatedly stabbing the snake's body. Only when Ami couldn't hold on any longer did she let go, her heartbeat pounding like an explosion. I gritted my teeth through the pain, gripping the spear with both hands and pressing down hard on the snake's head to stop it from flipping over. Ami glanced at my legs, red from the impact, and her anger flared. Raising a hefty stone, she smashed it against the snake's head. Finally, I was able to take a deep breath, not without wincing from the pain in my legs where the tail had struck. When the golden snake stopped moving, I told Ami not to tamper with the rock holding the snake's head down, fearing a final retaliatory bite. With the massive stone pinning its head, I drew my knife and sliced open its belly without delay. Blood and flesh split apart, and I quickly grabbed the snake gall first, yanking out its intestines and organs in one go. Once sure the snake was fully dead, I gave Ami the all-clear to lift the rock, then severed its head with a practiced motion. After all was done, I dropped to the ground, exhausted. My legs, both calves and thighs, were black and blue, throbbing with searing pain that made me wince in anguish. Squatting beside me, Ami tried to reassure, "Don't worry, Ami will find something for Momo to soothe it." You chimed in, "There's something that can make the pain go away." Before I could ask what, Ami crouched in front of me, gesturing to her back as she patted her waist. After a brief thought, I gave in and climbed onto her back. Ami carried me at the front of the group, going wherever I directed. You followed nearby, slicing through thorny branches with a small blade. Honestly, I could walk. It was just unbearably painful. On Ami's back, I caught a faint, clean scent. She didn't have the sour smell of sweat, but rather a mild fragrance. It distracted me the more I noticed it. I didn't need to wonder too much about why I lost control last night. Deep down, I had a sense. Sensing my subtle restlessness on her back, Ami's ears turned visibly red. Still, she pretended not to notice, letting out a quiet hum as she adjusted her stance and continued onward. After passing through some shrubs, the path flattened all of a sudden. The ground transitioned to short grass, an almost forced clearing among the wild overgrowth, where rows of robust bamboo-like plants stood tall and mighty. From my elevated position, I clearly saw what lay ahead and immediately had Ami set me down. Dragging my aching leg closer, I inspected them. These bamboo trunks were easily 30 to 40 centimeters in diameter and towered upwards of 20 to 30 meters high, some even taller. Excitement and frustration welled simultaneously. I couldn't quite recall their name, but the term dragon bamboo tugged at the back of my mind. Rummaging through my pack, I pulled out a serrated metal wire. Small knives couldn't cut something this thick, but this tool stood a chance. It didn't matter how unbelievably sturdy this bamboo was. I was confident I could cut it down. Gritting through the relentless ache, I began slicing into one of the massive stalks. You had already rallied the tribe to search the area for pain-relieving herbs, while Ami had gone in search herself. My throbbing calf, deeply bruised and swollen, still demanded attention. But as I kept cutting, I grew increasingly energized. This bamboo was insanely solid. This texture, it could definitely make a bow frame. More than that, it could yield armor, bamboo clothing. The fibers could even be extracted and twisted into cords for bowstrings. Worst case, it could be crafted into a makeshift pot to boil soup. Looking around this vast grove of dragon bamboo, heat coursed through my veins. This is a whole treasure trove, thousands, tens of thousands of stalks growing wildly. Forget striking it rich, this was a lifetime supply. Dragon bamboo regrows rapidly, shooting up 20 meters in just 3 years. With their limited manpower, not even a century-long harvest would exhaust this grove, short of burning it all down. Of course, I'd never consider such a thing. As I worked, Ami came rushing back, her face glowing with excitement. In her hand, she held some crushed green herbs. Momo, this. Though I didn't recognize the herb, and the others' confident faces reassured me. Use it, Momo, Ya urged. Pausing my task, I took the cool pulp and pressed it against the bruising on my leg. An overwhelming chill shot through my calf, surging through my entire body. For a brief second, I froze completely still. The fiery ache in my leg snuffed out, as if extinguished by an icy tide. Lifting the herbal compress to check, I was stunned further. The bruising had receded dramatically. What was once a large black and blue smear now shrank to barely the size of a hand. How is this even real? Ami leaned in. Momo, does it feel better? It feels amazing. Ami softly whispered back, amazing. I kept staring at the crushed herb, unable to help asking, do we have a lot of this stuff? If this worked for external injuries and bruises, apply it casually, and it works like a lifesaver. Deep down, I was more certain this place was definitely not Earth. No way Earth could have something with such insane medicinal properties. Ame didn't understand this kind of herb, and just looked confused. But Aya got it. Plenty. We use it all the time, she said. I burned the image of this herb into my brain. I had to figure out where I could find it so I could stock up for emergencies. Soon, the herb turned from green to black, as if it had absorbed the entire wound. My calf healed up cleanly. No pain, no swelling. Amazing, I murmured. Seeing I was fine, everyone around visibly relaxed. I turned back toward the giant dragon bamboo and stared it down. Today, I had to haul a few of these back with me. Concentrating harder, I put more power into controlling the metal cutting wire. Before long, a 40-meter-tall dragon bamboo crashed to the ground. I cut another one, then another. By the time each of the big sisters carried a 5-meter bamboo on their shoulders, clutching another under their arms, I led the group home. We managed to bring back about 55-meter-long poles of dragon bamboo, more than enough to keep me busy for a while. On the way back, I started thinking about the nearby stream's terrain. The stream was a bit higher up than the cave. If I could build a proper bamboo pipeline, wouldn't that mean we'd have running water? The more I thought about it, the more thrilled I got. This tribe had to strengthen itself, strong enough to surpass the other tribes. Only then could I work my way toward a proper sect master setup. This outdated chieftain system? Nah, not my thing. These big sisters had been abandoned by other tribes, feared like monsters. Fine then. From now on, you're with me. I don't scare easily, and honestly, I quite like it this way. Especially Ame. I decided, since I'm here, I'm not going to accept anything less than what I want. The dragon bamboo was successfully carried back to the tribe without any wild animals getting in our way. After ensuring everyone had made it home safely, I finally let out a true sigh of relief. Then some lively big sisters immediately caught my eye as they hauled over the massive golden snake. They made it look as if they were carrying a glowing tree trunk. That snake was a solid 10 meters long and ridiculously thick. If we skinned it, we'd have more than enough material for at least one outfit. I instructed them to lay the snake down, ready for skinning. But when I touched the snake gallbladder I had stored in my pocket, I had a different idea. Instead, I decided to roast it and eat it first. I skewered the gallbladder on a tree branch, setting it near the fire to roast slowly. Meanwhile, I got to work processing the snake meat. Aya and others began stacking the dragon bamboo in a neat pile. The trek was only about 900 meters, which didn't sound far, until you realized how grueling it was to trek through the jungle. Thorny undergrowth cut you, slippery footing threatened to send you sprawling, and venomous snakes or predators could leap out at you at any moment. It was mental strain from start to finish. After this trip, I understood one thing. Never wander too far alone without the strength to back yourself up. Having the big sisters with me was the real key to survival. The snake's skin peeled off quickly, glimmering golden on the ground, like an enormous gold tapestry. I dragged one of the dragon bamboos out into an open space and had Aya and another big sister hold each end. Using a metal cutting tool, I ground a groove into one end of the bamboo, then pushed a knife through the thickness. With cracking sounds, I split the bamboo cleanly along its grain. Gathering a few ropes, I constructed a 10-meter-long, 2-meter-high frame in no time. Aya, hang the snake skin onto this. When sunlight hit the snake's skin, its gold sheen became almost blinding. The group swarmed in awe, touching it incessantly. Ame boldly pointed to a section of the skin and declared, "This part's mine." Aya quickly claimed another spot. "This is for me." Given their status, no one argued. Soon, the snake skin was divvied up into pieces big enough for at least 3 people to make outfits or shorts. I glanced at the big sisters' physiques, my brain buzzing with ideas. They were so tall and strong. Any amount of fabric would seem inadequate for them. While slicing the snake meat and sprinkling it with salt, I couldn't help but glance at them again. Then I forced myself to look away. The roasted snake gallbladder was ready, and I popped it into my mouth in one gulp. Though it tasted bitter and weird, it immediately made me feel sharper, more alert. Suddenly, the thought of eating plain roasted meat every day didn't appeal to me anymore. No, what I wanted today was stew. Just throw in a few slices of ginger and some spices, and it would taste leagues better than roasting. Inspired, I quickly chopped about 10 large bamboo segments and fashioned them into pots and containers sturdy enough to boil water and make soup. I checked on the ceramic water jars stored in the shade, tapped them lightly. Sturdy, no cracks. All 5 were still perfectly usable. I walked over to Aya, who was staring intently at the golden snake's skin, completely engrossed. I called her name once. No response. I frowned and smacked her thigh lightly. "Aya." She snapped out of it. "Brother Amo? Take the bamboo containers, pots, water jars, and fill them at the stream," I instructed, pointing toward the direction. Aya repeated my instructions word for word, her eyes lighting up as she realized the potential. Big bamboo could hold loads of water. No more back-and-forth trips to the stream every time we needed a drink or wash. She quickly rounded up a team to carry everything and head for the stream. I buckled my backpack and directed the empty-handed folks to check on our traps. As for me, I started plotting. Could I channel the stream back to the camp? Perhaps even dig out a small fish pond and raise fish for long-term food? The project. It might take a few days, but as long as it works, I'm going to try. When we reached the creek's edge, Aya suddenly reached out to stop me. She stood taller, her vantage point greater, her face pale. She pulled me back with a firm grip, refusing to let me go any further. The others saw it too, the thing ahead, and instantly froze. "What is it?" I whispered, trying not to alarm anyone. Aya simply picked me up like a child, lifting me onto her shoulders so I could see for myself. The moment I looked, my heart sank. About 70 or 80 meters away, 2 massive crocodiles were fighting over a fat fish. The fish was at least 20 pounds, with both crocodiles easily over 3 meters long, muscles bulging grotesquely on their legs as they rolled and tore at one another. I was stunned. Why are juvenile emperor crocs in such a small creek? I muttered to myself. I knew too well. This wasn't just a fight over food. It was a battle for territory. By the end of today, one of them would have to die. Neither would back down. The creek itself was barely 4 to 5 meters wide, with its deepest part only 2 or 3 meters. I couldn't help but wonder if they'd chosen this slim ribbon of water because something even more dangerous made the larger river uninhabitable. Aya shivered and whispered, "Momo, let's go home." Her eyes were filled with fear. Behind her, the others were huddled together, too scared to move, even to look. But I didn't leave. Sure, crocodiles are terrifying. Their bite force is unbeatable, and their thick skin feels impenetrable, like armor. But out of the water, they're slow, especially ones this size. Moving for them would be a struggle. They'd be slower than a human walking. I estimated their weight, around 600 pounds each. "Momo, let's go home," Aya urged again. Her shoulders were trembling, but she still stood firm, waiting for my command. I kept my gaze fixed on the two crocodiles. I didn't want to back down. Creatures like this, sooner or later, we'd have to face them. If we didn't act now, this creek would eventually become their domain. We'd become the intruders, and Emperor Crocs liked lurking unseen beneath the water to ambush their prey. What made it worse was that these were just juveniles. Once fully grown, they could reach lengths of nearly 20 meters. And if one of them were to rip through Big Sister's legs in the future, the cost would be far too great. Aya quivered in fear. I stayed silent, mentally running through every weakness a crocodile had. I'd read educational reports before, researched, and pieced together strategies. I squeezed my hands into fists, formulating a plan. "Aya, have Big Sister bring the snake skin back. Hurry." I emphasized those last two words heavily, ensuring she understood. Aya seemed confused. With danger this imminent, why was I asking for snake skin instead of running? But the determination in my eyes left no room for argument. She turned back to Aim. "Momo wants the snake skin. Bring it quick." Aim looked at me, and I nodded in return. She sprinted off with a few others in tow to retrieve it. Meanwhile, I remained perched on Aya's shoulders, keeping a close eye on the two Emperor Crocs. Aya winced from the growing ache in her shoulders. Her face was flushed, but she endured it without complaint. I watched the creatures closely, waiting for the perfect moment. Not long later, Aim and another young woman came rushing back, both panting hard. "Catch your breath first," I told them. The two crocodiles had traded a few savage bites, but now locked eyes from across the water, motionless. They looked as if they might strike again at any moment, but neither advanced. Their massive bodies made every attack a gamble, exhausting them rapidly. Time dragged on. The crocs accumulated wounds on their snouts, heads, and legs but refused to give in. "Momo, Aya's tired," Aya whispered, her voice pitiful as her shaky legs betrayed the weight of my small body. Realizing I'd stayed up there too long, I immediately climbed down. Im swooped in to lift me onto her shoulders instead, holding me more securely. I didn't bother to protest. After a while longer, it became clear the crocodiles were spent, their breaths heaving. One's leg had been bitten so badly it could no longer support itself. "Aim, put me down," I said. She gently set me down, leaning in close, murmuring, "Tonight, you owe me a hug." I ignored her comment and extended my hand. Snake skin. Taking the snake skin, I draped it over myself, tucking it firmly into my waistband, leaving my limbs free to move. The trick wasn't that snake skin could stop crocodile bites. It was that Emperor Crocs instinctively feared the scent and appearance of creatures with golden hide patterns. Right now, those two crocs were injured and drained. Pushing them just a little more could break their will entirely. I gripped the bone spear in my hands, my tone going cold as I stared everyone down. "Only target this. The eyes. Attack, then immediately retreat." I pointed firmly to my own eyes, repeating the instruction. Aya was quick to relay my command to everyone. I waited, making sure each of them understood and nodded before continuing. I wasn't counting on these older sisters to show unexpected strength. I just needed them to avoid any foolish attempts to bash the crocodile's impenetrable armor. The Emperor Croc's weak spot was always the eyes. Stab at its eyes, and it'd writhe in pain, using up the last of its energy before collapsing unconscious. If we managed to bring it down, I'd finish it off with my knife by opening its belly. At over 1,200 pounds combined, the two crocs would feed our tribe for at least a couple of weeks. The golden snake gall I ate earlier burned like fire in my veins, and my battle spirit surged. My spine straightened, infused with confidence. I even felt like I could take aim on and win. Both crocs were crippled. One was missing a functional leg, and the other was too tired to launch a proper attack. This was it, the moment we'd been waiting for. I motioned for everyone to stay close. While they were scared out of their minds, no one turned back, because I stood at the front. Aya trusted me to bring food and luck to the tribe. And Aim? Well, she didn't just trust me, she was betting her life on it. My life was on the line. As the distance drew closer, I finally saw it clearly, the patches of crocodile scales and those bottomless eyes. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. They were afraid of me. Wearing a golden snakeskin cloak, I charged toward them, shouting at the top of my lungs while running. Eyes. Aim for the eyes. The Emperor Croc tried to scuttle away, but its broken leg gave out. It barely moved an inch before being overtaken. With a sharp thunk, the spear pierced into its massive eye, a gush of blood spraying forth. The crocodile opened its maw, roaring and thrashing violently. Terrified, Amy trembled, but still mustered the courage to lunge forward, shoving her spear into its other eye. Immediately, I grabbed her and yanked her back. Amy, fall back, I said urgently. It's going into a death frenzy. Meanwhile, Aya led another group precisely targeting the other croc's eyes. But one of the older women bolted in fear as the beast gaped its massive jaws. I barked, "Get back here. Stay together. We're retreating, not running for our lives." That pulled everyone together, and they crowded behind me. No one dared to breathe loudly as the two giant crocodiles thrashed and roared on the ground in agony. 1 minute passed. Their movement slowed. 2 minutes in, the blinded reptiles clumsily collided with each other, gnawing aimlessly in pain. They exhausted what little strength they had left. By the 3rd minute, only the sound of the stream remained on the battlefield. My chest hammered as though it might burst. My body overheated from the rush, and maybe swallowing that snake gall earlier wasn't the best idea. I threw a spear toward the unmoving crocodiles to test the waters. No reaction. They're out cold. Now's the time. Ignoring the protests from Io and Amy, I grabbed my knife and charged forward, stopping right by the hulking crocodile's head. I drove the blade down viciously through its skull. A sickening crunch as bone gave way to blade. The croc flailed briefly before going completely limp. I withdrew the knife, glaring at the second beast. Without hesitation, I struck the same vital spot. There was a wet, pulping sound. Blood spilled out, and my hands trembled uncontrollably. My heart pounded like it was about to detonate, my eyes reddening from the sheer adrenaline. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd butcher two beasts that weighed a combined 1,200 pounds in the middle of the rainforest. This feat could be bragged about for a lifetime back on Blue Star. Aya, Amy, quick, they're dead. I hollered to the older women nearby. They were absolutely stunned, their mouths agape, but unable to form words. To them, I must have looked like some fearless warrior sent straight from the heavens, hurling myself at the monsters, bringing them down with brutal efficiency, and emerging completely unharmed. Not even a scratch, and my complexion looked ridiculously healthy. The sheer ferocity and raw masculinity rolling off me left the group both intimidated and something else. I grinned and urged them, "Don't just stand there, skin them, carve up the meat. Let's take it all back to the main tribe." Amy's gaze was locked onto me, almost entranced. She rushed over like a moth drawn to a flame. Aya began moving as well, which got the others back into action. Hauling 2 crocs that size required multiple trips, no joke. By the afternoon, the drying racks were overloaded with crocodile meat. Bones were piled into a small hill. Anyone in the main tribe who saw it couldn't suppress their grins. The piece de resistance, though, were the 2 pristine, unbroken crocodile hides. Who wouldn't be overjoyed at the sight? What really sealed the deal was the 2 cauldrons of soup I prepared, packed with salt, ginger slices, and a few choice spices. I'd protected the bamboo cauldron bottoms with clay, cooking without letting them burn, but still heating the soup to a rolling boil. Crocodile meat, it was fatty, rich, but tender. Just one sip of that broth sent shivers of euphoria down my spine. With the snake gall's energy rushing through me, I was ravenous. I didn't wait for anyone and immediately dug in. The others were busy cutting and smoking the meat. Hungry, they gnawed on pieces cooked on open flames. Processing nearly 800 pounds of croc would take them through the night. Aya smiled as she approached. "Momo, there's so much left. We'll need to work into tonight to finish it all. I downed a few chunks of meat, content enough to narrow my eyes at her in satisfaction. It's worth the effort. You should eat some. This is insanely good. Using my bamboo chopsticks, I picked up a piece of crocodile meat and fed it straight to Aya. Caught off guard, she froze for a second before obliging and taking a bite. The very next moment, her whole body stiffened. The flavor overwhelmed her. It was so good, she couldn't even speak. Amy, however, caught sight of the whole feeding scenario, and her expression darkened. Jealousy etched into her face as she stomped over, demanding a taste as well. Already running hot, I couldn't help but react as Amy's fair and full figure leaned close. Fighting the stir in my chest, I picked up another piece of meat and fed it to her. As she bit into it, I leaned into her ear and whispered lowly, "Cave, cuddle, sleep." Her ears turned scorching red at my words, and suddenly the crock meat in her mouth seemed far less appetizing. Not wasting a second, she clung on to me and practically dragged me toward the cave in excitement. I didn't protest. I had no intention of holding back tonight. Outside, the older women cutting and smoking the crocodile meat suddenly heard muffled, suggestive noises echoing out of the cave. The work in their hands momentarily paused, their cheeks flushing as they instinctively turned toward the source. Aya swallowed hard, her face burning, before sternly waving a hand. "No one goes near the cave. Keep working. Nobody's allowed in there tonight." As the queen, she could only suppress her feelings and keep order. Even if her heart ached, she forced herself to endure it. The others, however, had no choice but to bow their heads and keep chopping, the curiosity and heat gnawing at them. 3 days later, I was painstakingly tearing fine fibers from dragon bamboo, throwing them into a boiling bamboo cauldron to soften. Meanwhile, most of the women worked to retrieve and weave the softened fibers into thread. Dragon bamboo, though thick, had fibers as fine as silk, and when processed properly, they made for materials strong enough to serve as sewing threads. I had the older women weaving thread to make bamboo clothing. Regularly foraging leaves to cover ourselves wasn't sustainable. It was time to upgrade from grass clothes. I hadn't been idle either over these 3 days. Finally, my composite bamboo bow was ready. The bow was set to cure in a cool, shaded area. Made from 3 bamboo layers layered together. The innermost curved inward, the middle slightly less so, and the outermost layer outward. Tightly bound with bamboo fibers, one shot triggers 2 more to fire together. With each pull and release, the kinetic energy is downright intimidating. This bow is no joke in terms of power. Yet, even though I haven't gone hunting in the past 3 days, the pile of leather in the tribe just keeps growing. 2 crocodile hides and a golden python skin are still being repeatedly washed with oil. In addition, there are 3 wolf pelts, 8 rabbit pelts, 2 deer hides, and a sheep's skin, drying and undergoing finer treatment. By my calculations, these hides are enough to make decent tops for 23 of the older women. Pants, however, require too much material, still beyond our current supply. Even more troublesome is the meat. This much meat is impossible to finish. Even if we smoke it, store it in bamboo tubes, and keep it in a shaded, cool area, it'll only last about 7 days. 7 days isn't enough time to finish eating, and even if we use it to feed pheasants or as bait for traps, it's too much. If only we had salt. If I could find a salt spring, salt lake, or salt mine, I'd figure out a way to refine pure salt. But the daily intel I'm getting is painfully straightforward. No salt within a kilometer of the tribe. Salt has officially become the bottleneck. I pause my work, walk over to the bamboo pot simmering lamb stew. Adding a pinch of salt and a thin slice of ginger, I let the pot bubble away. Soon, the rich aroma fills the air. Smells amazing. "Momo." I take a taste of the soup, but pause mid-motion when I hear her voice. I turn my head. Ame walks over, her face slightly flushed, and her skin almost glowing with a porcelain-like tone and smooth texture. She really has become fair-skinned. Unnaturally so, even. It's absurd, like even her pores have disappeared. I feel my throat tighten. Though I've felt strangely hollow these past few days, my strength, physique, stamina, and mental clarity have only been increasing. Where once I'd struggled to haul a 100-pound load, I can now carry that weight on my shoulders for over 2 hours straight. In a soft voice, Aimee says, "Momo love you." This is a phrase she's newly learned, and she's been saying it so fluently for the past 3 days. I lower my voice, trying to remain composed. Aimee, take a break. There's still so much work to be done in the tribe. She understands, and, giving me a gentle kiss, turns and jogs back to continue working with the giant bamboo fibers. The older women gather around her, touching her skin with barely hidden envy and eagerness. 3 days' time, just 3 days, and she has transformed. They are both envious and full of desire. Especially Aya. Her gaze doesn't leave Aimee for long, constantly flicking glances at her and sneaking occasional looks at me. She knows who's responsible. I bury myself in the lamb stew, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. One wrong look, and I'm afraid someone might drag me straight into a cave. Focus on development. I force myself back into rational thinking, mentally locking my priorities into place. First asterisk, find salt. Second asterisk, build bamboo houses. Third asterisk, teach people how to use bows. Fourth asterisk, utilize giant bamboo to bring water into camp. Salt is the top priority. I'll open the daily intel later when I head out to gather giant bamboo, hoping for a clue. From my observations, the intel area extends about 3 kilometers around me. Bamboo houses will be easier to handle. Once there's enough bamboo rope and fibers, it's go time. With 20+ people learning together, we could get a few houses up in a single day. Living in caves is doable, but not ideal. Yesterday especially, when Aya was staring so intently, watching me learn was unnerving. Everyone needs their own house. That's a step we must take. The third priority, mastering the bow. This can't be rushed, though. First, I need to produce enough bows and arrows, then gradually train everyone. And finally, the fourth task, chopping down giant bamboo to create a water supply for the settlement. Let's start. I'll cut some giant bamboo, and while I'm at it, open the daily intel for any clues about salt. I recall Aya mentioning that there are water buffaloes to the northwest. Those huge creatures can't grow so big without access to salt. The salt is likely in the northwest. With clear direction, I feel more confident. I don't just want to grow this tribe. I want to make it strong, and I will be the most powerful chief. Still, the lingering question nags at me. Are the older women in the tribe truly human? Humans aren't supposed to be this strong. On top of that, the lack of children around here raises its own questions. What does this mean? The more I think about it, the more uneasy I feel. I need to ask Aya and Aimee about the tribe they came from, what it was really like. Once I finish the lamb stew, I have everyone eat some as well to stay warm. Properly prepared lamb loses its gaminess and becomes fragrant. Its fat and lean meat make one bite far better than the dry game meat we've been eating. Still, I keep myself from indulging too much. I can't afford to. Out of the original 500 grams of salt, we're left with less than 300 grams now. This trip out better yield a salt source. I grab my bamboo composite bow and instruct the women, now full from the meal, to bring dried meat and bamboo spears for the journey. 900 meters isn't far, but wild animals can appear at any moment on the trail. Less preparation could mean real trouble. We head out with Aya leading the way. She's tall enough to see past the shrubs and warns us of any sudden events. This trail has been traveled enough times to form a faint path, so our pace is quicker this time. In no time, we complete the 900-meter trek without encountering any dangerous animals, lucky for us. Reaching the giant bamboo forest, I assign tasks. Search the area for herbs while I work on cutting down bamboo. Aya quickly takes charge. Everyone, gather herbs. Let Momo focus on the bamboo. Looking up at the 30 to 40 meter tall bamboo stalks, I pull out my serrated metal wire and get to work. Soon, 3 pieces of giant bamboo come crashing to the ground. As I sit down to catch my breath, Aimee walks over, waist tied with pieces of dried venison. Hand it over. Momo, eat some meat. I smiled, took a bite, and instinctively gave her cool, fair cheek a soft rub. I then pulled up the daily intel. Today's intel. 1. There's a spring about 100 meters east of the bamboo forest that can relieve fatigue if you drink from it. Asterisk asterisk. 2. A herd of water buffalo has gathered on the riverbank 1 kilometer northeast of the bamboo forest. Asterisk asterisk. 3. About 300 meters northwest of the bamboo forest, there's a small saltwater spring. Asterisk asterisk. 4. 3 kilometers directly south of the bamboo forest, there's a black panther chasing a group of chubby sheep through the grass. Asterisk asterisk. 5. 3 kilometers southeast of the bamboo forest, a herd of wild horses is galloping across the flatlands. Asterisk asterisk. 6. Aya wants to get fairer skin and is curious about your relationship with Aim. Asterisk asterisk. 7. Aim wants to cuddle tonight and doesn't want Aya to interfere. Asterisk asterisk. As I held Aim to comfort her, I went through the intel, feeling increasingly excited. The salt spring is only 300 meters northwest. Plus, there's a fatigue-relieving spring. I was now completely convinced. This world's resource distribution was entirely different from Earth. This wasn't Earth, nor was it the Earth of the past. This wasn't some forgotten edge of Earth either. It was a completely different place. The resources here were beyond anything Earth could offer. I mean, just look. How could a mere 20 or so traps yield daily streams of prey? It's absurd. Even stranger were the animals, many of which I'd never even seen before. The more I pondered, the more things felt off. And then there was Aim. At first, I thought the bigger tribes here were filled with primitive people. But the more I interacted with them, the more I realized I was the one who seemed primitive. They seemed evolved. Taller, cleaner skin, smoother features, and somehow stronger than me. This wasn't just my imagination. But Aim was starting to act up more and more, pushing my patience to its limit. I had to suppress my frustration. Aim, no. The moment I let go, she gave me a cheeky, mischievous smile, cheeks flushed red. After finishing the venison, I glanced out toward the salt spring and the energy-cleaning spring, then suddenly shouted, "Aya!" Without missing a beat, Aya gathered everyone around me. I quickly got to work, instructing them to move the cut pieces of giant bamboo to the designated spot. Every single one of these women was over 2 meters tall, and when they worked together, they could easily lift even 50-meter-long bamboo trunks. The terrain here was higher than at the larger tribe, and I changed my mind about sourcing water from the stream. Instead, I decided we'd use the giant bamboo to channel water directly. I did briefly consider moving camp to the bamboo forest itself, but the women weren't familiar with this area's resource points. The old mountain cave could still provide shelter from the rain, so leaving it seemed too risky for now. Not to mention, food and defenses weren't stable yet. We couldn't afford to bet everything on an unknown. I suppressed my urge to relocate and stuck to just redirecting the water flow. 100 meters later, we came across the spring, the crystal-clear water gushing continuously. The naturally formed drops and slopes enhanced the flow, spilling out like an open faucet. Staring at the spring, I let out a low curse under my breath. No wonder the giant bamboo grows like crazy here. Water and salt, right here at the source. I leaned in, washed my face, and took a sip. Immediately, I felt my fatigue wash away, as if a sudden clarity had energized me, like even the existential emptiness of the last 3 days had lessened. I couldn't help but shoot a teasing comment at Aim. "If you drink too much of this, you're doomed." I then waved at everyone else. "Come on, try it. It's amazing." Aya looked skeptical, but Aim was intrigued. She had never seen a spring like this before. Her cheeks flushed slightly as she hesitated before taking a sip, and soon after, Aya followed suit. Seconds later, their expressions changed dramatically, as if the fatigue had drained right out of their bodies. I barked out orders immediately. "Everyone, take a drink. There's a lot to get done later, and this'll keep you going." I knew this water could only relieve fatigue, not hunger. But for now, that was more than enough. While they drank, I shifted my attention toward the salt spring. If we could get salt, our meat stocks could last significantly longer. We could cure and smoke it, packing it in bamboo tubes or hanging it in shaded, airy spots. This could stretch our supplies for a month or 2 at least. After confirming there was no issue with the energy spring water, I made my way to the salt spring. One of the towering women stood near the salt spring's opening, curiously watching the small but steady stream of water. She looked downright tempted to take another sip. I stepped in quickly, stopping her with a water flask. "That one's drinkable. This one, absolutely not." Though she didn't fully understand, the sight of the flask deterred her from trying the salty water. Aya squinted at the salt spring and asked, "Momo, why can't we drink this one?" I wanted to explain the taste and useful properties of salt, but found myself lacking the right words. Instead, I reached into my pack and pulled out some salt grains. This was something they all recognized. They'd seen me use it before while cooking. Just a pinch was enough to make meat smell and taste incredibly appetizing. I motioned for Aya to crouch slightly, then sprinkled some salt into her hand, gesturing for her to taste it. Aya trusted me implicitly. If anyone else had offered her something unfamiliar, she wouldn't have gone near it, let alone put it in her mouth. But since it was me, she didn't hesitate. However, before I could react, Im rushed over, holding out her own hand expectantly. I couldn't help but find it amusing. It's just salt. You're really trying to fight me for it. Still, I gave her a small pinch as well. The moment Aim tasted it, her face twisted in confusion before she frantically spit it out. Uffed, uffed, salt grains and saliva went flying. Her tongue was bright red, and her expression was a mix of mortification and hilarity. Aya, on the other hand, braved the harsh saltiness, taking her time to savor it. She was likely recalling how a rich, savory flavor had flooded that pot of mutton earlier, invigorating her entire body. She glanced up at me knowingly, piecing together the rest of the puzzle. Momo, the delicious meat, it's this one. I smiled. Aya was so smart, immediately catching on. Yes, this is called salt, and that is brine. Aya and Aim both memorized the names. Though Aim pretended to dislike it, deep down she thought, adding a bit of this to stew would definitely make it tastier. The small moment passed, and I got back to work. Using dragon bamboo, I began constructing pipelines, one to channel the fatigue spring and the other for the salt spring. Neither could be left out. By the time the 2-kilometer-long pipelines were set up, it was already dark, yet not a single drop of water flowed through. The bamboo nodes weren't hollowed out. I stared at the 2 bamboo pipelines, stretching across like green dragons, sighed, and then gritted my teeth. Hollowing out every node in 2 kilometers of bamboo. This is a massive job. Yet I still smiled, because as long as it gets done, everything would turn around for the better. Aya wiped her mouth, complaining of exhaustion and hunger, while the big sisters behind her couldn't hold out any longer either. Even with the fatigue spring water, it couldn't offset the toll from the day's labor. I nodded and called it a day. That's enough for today. Thank you all, let's head back home. Even though they didn't really know why they were working so hard, no one complained. Deep in their subconscious, they already saw me as the most dependable one. They believed that as long as they followed me, they wouldn't go hungry, they'd stay safe, and life would only get better. But on the way back, trouble unexpectedly appeared. A stray water buffalo emerged. The moment it spotted us, it let out a booming moo. That sound sent chills down everyone's spine. Aya instinctively trembled. When I got a good look at it, I was stunned too. This thing stood 2 meters tall and stretched 4 meters long, weighing as much as a car. And Momo scared. Aya and the older sisters huddled together, retreating. Even Aim clung closely to me, not daring to move away. I suppressed the group's panic, calmly reassuring them, "Don't be scared. It's not dangerous." Aya fought back her fear and asked, "A moo isn't dangerous?" I nodded, though I was acutely aware of something else. This buffalo was enormous. Its skin looked unbelievably tough. Bamboo bows and arrows wouldn't be able to harm it. If I were to fight it head-on with a knife, its sheer strength and stamina would wear me down first. Even if the big sisters mustered the courage to use bamboo spears to surround and attack it, they'd likely be knocked down by its horns. It'd then escape deeper into the wild, nurse its wounds, and perhaps come back stronger. On our end, though, casualties would be inevitable. That would be a major loss. "Let's go around this way. Don't get close to it," I said, keeping eye contact with the buffalo's gentle gaze. After a moment, I decided not to engage. I didn't have confidence in taking it down quickly, and its sharp, thick horns, if they charged at someone, would be no less dangerous than a speeding truck. Killing a person would be effortless for this beast. Fortunately, its temperament was calm. Being a herbivore, it wouldn't attack as long as it wasn't provoked. All I could think of was leaving quickly. If its natural predator was lurking nearby, that would bring an even bigger disaster. I guided Aya, Aim, and the rest of the group to bypass it, steering clear of danger. Once the buffalo was out of sight, everyone finally let out a collective sigh of relief. At that moment, they cemented a belief in their minds. I must be the god of the tribe. Even such a terrifying giant beast wouldn't dare lay a hand on us when I was there. If it weren't for me, a few of them might not have survived today. Back in the large settlement, everyone looked at me differently. Aim firmly believed that bringing me back was the smartest decision she had ever made. It was a blessing for the entire tribe. Aya's resolve grew stronger. Following my lead was the right choice, no doubt about it. Other members of the tribe silently arrived at their own conclusions too. Welcoming me had been the best decision of their lives. Meat? Time to eat, I announced, pointing to 2 pots filled with tender, perfectly stewed mutton with a big grin. Then, my gaze fell on Aim. It lingered, and there was something peculiar in the way I looked at her. Blushing, Aim pressed her lips together, shuffled closer, and whispered, "Momo." I had already guessed what she was up to. With a slight huff, I called her out. "You little glutton.